Hey guys, tonight we're going to journey deep into the heart of one of the most mysterious and untold regions of the world, the vast Sahara Desert. But here's the kicker. As you sink deeper into this adventure, you're about to learn about cities long forgotten by time, lost beneath the endless sands. You'll discover the Sahara wasn't always the barren wasteland it is today. These cities, once centers of thriving civilizations, were home to advanced cultures, bustling trade, and even golden ages. But what happened to them? How did such powerful places vanish from history? You probably won't survive this. Not because it's dangerous, but because you'll be so relaxed you might drift off before I finish. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And feel free to comment on where you're tuning in from and what time it is in your neck of the woods. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's start this journey in one of the most desolate yet historically rich places on Earth, the Sahara Desert. You're sitting back, letting the wind ruffle your hair as you look out across the golden dunes. For most, the Sahara is a place of barren emptiness. But what if I told you that once upon a time, this vast desert was home to thriving cities? You may find it hard to imagine, but before the Sahara became the sandy expanse we know today, it was lush, green, and teeming with life. In fact, the Sahara wasn't always the dry, arid desert we see now. Thousands of years ago, the climate was much wetter, with rivers, lakes, and vast grasslands stretching across what is now the desert. Ancient rock art, discovered on the cliffs and caves of the Sahara, shows animals like cattle, elephants, and giraffes, species that would never survive here today. This lush period, sometimes referred to as the Green Sahara, is a fascinating piece of the puzzle. Historians still argue whether the desertification of the Sahara was a sudden event or a slow process that unfolded over thousands of years. Some suggest that climate change and shifts in the Earth's orbit were responsible for transforming this once fertile land into the desert we know now. Others believe human activity played a role, overhunting and farming, that might have accelerated the environmental changes. No matter the cause, the transition from a green paradise to a desert left behind forgotten civilizations, some lost to time, and others buried beneath shifting sands. Take a moment to imagine it. Cities spread out in the middle of the desert, oases acting as the lifelines for bustling trade, thriving markets, and ambitious kingdoms. These were places of innovation, flourishing cultures, and human ingenuity. Ancient cities, now covered by centuries of sand, had once been places of incredible wealth and knowledge. Among these cities, we come across the city of Tern. This bustling metropolis flourished as part of the early Saharan kingdoms, which were part of the broader trans-Saharan trade routes. Ancient maps show that Tern was once at the crossroads of the desert trade, linking West Africa with the Mediterranean. But just like many of these forgotten cities, it has vanished, its exact location still lost beneath the ever-changing dunes. Historians have long speculated about Tern's role in the Sahara's golden age. Some argue it was the most important center of trade, while others think it was a spiritual hub, a place of sacred temples and religious influence. The thing is, we still don't know exactly where Tern was, or why it faded away so mysteriously. Was it a result of desertification? Or did rival empires and neighboring kingdoms eventually bring it to its knees? The city of Autogast presents another mystery. This ancient trading city on the southern edge of the Sahara was once a central point in the trans-Saharan trade. Merchants came from all corners of Africa and beyond to buy gold, salt, ivory, and other precious commodities. But today, Autogast lies in ruins, its grand markets and majestic buildings swallowed by the shifting sands. You might imagine standing where traders once negotiated goods worth more than gold, only to realize that the city is completely forgotten. The marks of its existence barely visible today. Historians argue whether Autogast's decline was due to its strategic location being overtaken by other empires, or whether the harsh desert climate and changing trade routes led to its downfall. Some even speculate that the city fell prey to natural disasters, perhaps a series of deadly droughts, storms, or even an earthquake. The truth is, we don't know for sure. What we do know is that Autogast played a key role in connecting North Africa to the rest of the world, helping to establish a network of trade that spread from the Mediterranean all the way down to sub-Saharan Africa. There's also the city of Garama in the Garamantes kingdom, a civilization that flourished in the central Sahara long before many other African empires rose to power. The Garamantes were an advanced society, known for their irrigation systems, which allowed them to transform the arid Sahara into an agricultural haven. They built a sophisticated network of underground tunnels that brought water from distant oases, creating life in the desert. Historians are still debating whether the Garamantes' methods of survival in such a harsh climate were truly sustainable. Some argue that their advanced irrigation systems allowed them to thrive for centuries, while others suggest that the kingdom's eventual collapse was inevitable due to the desert's harsh conditions and possible overuse of water resources. Some even speculate that the Garamantes' trading routes, which once connected them to Rome, North Africa, and even Egypt, gradually lost their importance, leading to their decline. And then there's the mystery of the lost Berber cities. The Berber people, often seen as the original Sahara stewards, built cities that stretched from the Atlantic coast to the Nile Valley. They traded in salt, gold, and cattle, but much of their history has been lost to time. While traces of these cities still exist, their names, architecture, and full stories are lost beneath layers of shifting sand and forgotten records. Historians are left piecing together the stories of these ancient peoples from scattered clues, archaeological digs, and old maps. These lost cities remind us that even in the harshest environments, humans are capable of thriving. They remind us that the Sahara was once a place of abundant life, and its forgotten cities were not just dust and ruins, but monuments to human innovation and resilience. While we may never fully uncover all the secrets of the Sahara's golden age, we can continue to explore the mysteries that lie beneath its sands. As you continue on this journey through the forgotten cities of the Sahara, the air grows thicker with the sense of mystery. The dry winds of the desert whisper tales of once thriving kingdoms, their stories buried under centuries of sand and time. The Sahara today is the place of inhospitable beauty. But it wasn't always like this. In ancient times, the desert was not just a vast, unending sea of sand. It was home to flourishing civilizations that were as advanced as those in the fertile river valleys of Egypt or Mesopotamia. The question that lingers is, what happened to them? Let's shift our focus to the Saharan kingdoms that once ruled over vast territories of this arid land. One such kingdom was the Garamantes, stretching across the central Sahara. The Garamantes were a highly advanced civilization, particularly known for their impressive engineering feats. They mastered the art of irrigation in one of the driest places on Earth, transforming the Sahara into a region where agriculture could flourish. They dug complex underground channels called qanats, which brought water from distant oases to their cities, allowing them to thrive even in the harshest desert conditions. Historians still argue over how the Garamantes sustained such a delicate balance between their agricultural innovations and the harsh desert environment. Some believe their water systems allowed for the survival of their kingdom for centuries, while others suggest they eventually overexploited the desert's limited resources, causing their downfall. Their ultimate decline, it seems, could have been caused by a combination of environmental stress, political fragmentation, and the shifting dynamics of trade routes. Some scholars even suggest that the Romans, who once had trade relations with the Garamantes, may have inadvertently contributed to their downfall as they moved to dominate the surrounding regions. The story of the Garamantes is just one example of the thriving civilizations that once dotted the Sahara. These kingdoms had their own systems of governance, culture, and technological advancements, but despite their innovations, their stories are largely forgotten, hidden beneath the shifting sands. What's especially fascinating is how, despite the harsh environment, these societies were able to prosper for hundreds of years, only to eventually vanish. This creates a compelling question. What led to the downfall of the Sahara's once great kingdoms? A major factor in this downfall appears to be climate change. The Sahara, like much of the world, has undergone dramatic shifts in climate over thousands of years. What was once a lush, green region filled with lakes and rivers slowly began to dry up. The evidence is clear in the ancient rock art scattered throughout the desert. These paintings depict animals like cattle, elephants, and hippopotamuses, animals that would have thrived in a much wetter environment. The changing climate, some scholars believe, played a central role in the desertification of the Sahara, making it increasingly difficult for these civilizations to maintain their way of life. Historians continue to debate the timeline of this transformation. Was it a slow process, taking place over thousands of years, or was it more sudden? Some researchers point to evidence of sharp climatic shifts that could have disrupted agriculture, leading to the decline of cities that depended on irrigation systems to survive. Others argue that the trade routes that once connected the Sahara to other civilizations, including Egypt and Carthage, may have shifted, leading to the abandonment of cities that once flourished on the edge of the desert. While climate change certainly played a significant role, another important factor in the downfall of Sahara civilizations was the decline of trade networks. The Sahara was once a hub of commerce, connecting sub-Saharan Africa with the Mediterranean and beyond. Gold, salt, and ivory flowed through the desert, and the cities along these trade routes thrived. However, as new trade routes emerged, especially around the time of the Roman Empire, the importance of the Sahara as a trade corridor began to diminish. The rise of powerful empires, such as the Romans in the north and the Arabs to the east, also had a profound impact on the Sahara's kingdoms. The spread of Islam in the 7th century changed the political and cultural landscape of the region. With the new religious and political systems, the previously autonomous desert cities were either absorbed into the growing Islamic empire or abandoned altogether. The old order, based on traditional desert trade and agricultural techniques, was increasingly displaced by new systems of governance, trade, and religion. While much of the Sahara's ancient history remains shrouded in mystery, it's clear that these lost cities were centers of innovation, trade, and culture. The Berbers, the indigenous people of the Sahara, were crucial to this history, acting as both traders and cultural brokers between North Africa and the rest of the world. Their nomadic lifestyle allowed them to adapt to the harsh desert environment, while maintaining vital connections with neighboring regions. Historians still argue whether the Berber tribes played a significant role in the collapse of the Saharan kingdoms. Some suggest that the Arab expansion led to the cultural assimilation of the Berbers, while others believe they played a crucial role in preserving the ancient desert traditions. Either way, the Berbers' enduring presence in the Sahara, their resilience in the face of environmental and political change, and their cultural contributions are a testament to the strength of the human spirit. As we move forward in our exploration of these forgotten cities, one thing becomes clear. The Sahara's ancient civilizations were not isolated. They were interconnected hubs of trade, culture, and innovation, where goods, ideas, and technologies were exchanged between vastly different cultures. The loss of these cities is not just the loss of ancient ruins, it's the loss of a time when human ingenuity allowed civilizations to thrive in one of the most unforgiving environments on Earth. In the end, the story of the Sahara's golden ages is a story of human resilience. These civilizations may have disappeared, buried beneath the sands, but their legacy continues to influence the world today. The Sahara, as inhospitable as it may seem, was once a cradle of life, creativity, and culture, and it is this lost world that we continue to rediscover, one grain of sand at a time. As the journey continues, you feel yourself drifting deeper into the history of the Sahara, where the winds of time have buried so many stories beneath their endless dunes. The cities that once prospered here, thriving hubs of trade, learning, and cultural exchange, have long been swallowed by the desert, leaving only ruins and whispers in the sand. But despite the vast emptiness of the Sahara, there is something unmistakably powerful in the echoes of the past, reminders that this desert was once a crossroads of human achievement. One of the most fascinating tales of these forgotten civilizations is that of the Garamantes, a people whose city-state once dominated the Central Sahara. The Garamantes weren't just survivors of the desert. They were masters of it. They harnessed the power of the desert's most precious resource, water. With their incredible underground irrigation systems, they turned the barren Sahara into a fertile oasis capable of supporting entire cities. The Garamantes' advanced engineering made their kingdom a wonder of the ancient world. Yet today, their story is barely known. The Garamantes were adept at building a network of underground canals, some extending hundreds of kilometers, to bring water from distant oases to their urban centers. These underground systems, known as qanats, were nothing short of miraculous. The qanats allowed the Garamantes to grow crops and sustain a population in a place where no other civilization could survive. Through their ingenuity, the Garamantes were able to transform the Sahara into a productive landscape, capable of sustaining life. They created what was, for all intents and purposes, a desert paradise. Historians still argue whether the Qanat systems were truly unique to the Garamantes or whether they were adopted from other civilizations, particularly those in Persia. Some scholars believe that the Garamantes developed their system independently, while others argue that they were influenced by the Persian Qanat techniques, which were introduced to the region through the spread of ancient trade routes. Whatever their origins, the ingenuity behind the Garamantes' water management remains one of their greatest contributions to desert civilization. But despite their brilliance, the Garamantes' kingdom eventually fell. The exact reasons for their decline are unknown, but many historians believe that climate change played a significant role. As the Sahara grew drier over centuries, the water systems that once supported the Garamantes began to fail. The very lifeblood of their civilization, water, became increasingly difficult to access, leading to agricultural collapse. The Garamantes, like many other ancient desert civilizations, were victims of the very environment they had once mastered. Yet, the Garamantes were not the only civilization to thrive and fall in the Sahara. As we move westward, we encounter another forgotten city, Autagast, which once stood as a powerful trading hub, located near the present-day border of Algeria and Mali. Autagast was a city of immense wealth and cultural significance. It controlled a major trade route that linked the Mediterranean world to sub-Saharan Africa. The city's wealth was based on the trade of gold, salt, and ivory, products that were in high demand in ancient markets. What's fascinating about Autagast is that, like many other cities of the Sahara, it was a center of knowledge. It was home to learned scholars and merchants who facilitated the exchange of ideas, culture, and innovations. Autagast became a place where Islamic knowledge flourished, influencing not only Africa but also Europe. The city was a cultural crossroads, where Arabic, Berber, and other African languages blended to create a rich tapestry of thought and tradition. But even Autagast could not escape the forces of change that were reshaping the Sahara. As trade routes shifted and empires rose and fell, Autagast eventually faded into obscurity. Historians are still unsure why the city declined. Was it due to external pressures, such as invasions or the rise of new trade routes? Or was it the result of internal collapse, perhaps caused by shifting political power or the natural environment? Some scholars argue that Autagast's fall was part of a broader trend in the Sahara, where once thriving cities were abandoned as the desert expanded and the trade routes that sustained them shifted. The mystery of Autagast's decline mirrors that of many other ancient Saharan cities. In the end, climate change, shifting trade routes, and internal struggles likely contributed to their demise. Yet, despite these challenges, the memory of these cities lingers in the ruins and the legends that survive. The mysterious, forgotten kingdoms of the Sahara still hold the key to understanding a time when humans could conquer even the most inhospitable landscapes. As we move on from the cities of the Garamantes and Autogast, we must ask, what was it that allowed these civilizations to thrive in such an unforgiving environment? Was it their incredible adaptability, their innovative technologies, or something more elusive? Some historians argue that it was a combination of all these factors: the ability to adapt to the harsh desert environment, the creation of systems to manage water, and the willingness to innovate in the face of adversity were all hallmarks of these lost civilizations. Historians still argue whether the desert was always the enemy of these ancient cities, or whether it was their own ambitions that led to their downfall. Did the Garamantes and Autogast push the desert too far, or were they victims of forces beyond their control? Climate change, overexploitation of resources, and shifting trade routes all played their parts. But ultimately, the desert took back what it had once generously given. The question remains, could these civilizations have survived if their environmental conditions had been different, or was their fate inevitable? As you sit back and reflect on this, you begin to realize that the story of the Sahara's lost cities isn't just about the past. It's about resilience, adaptation, and the constant struggle of humankind to carve out a place in the world. These cities, once bustling with life, were not just relics of a forgotten era. They were symbols of human ingenuity, of the ability to build and thrive even in the most unforgiving conditions. The Sahara may have swallowed their cities, but it couldn't erase the legacy of their golden ages. As you settle into the stillness of the desert night, the fading remnants of ancient civilizations seem to come alive in the soft whispers of the wind. You're reminded that the Sahara Desert wasn't always the hostile, barren landscape we know today. It was once home to thriving cities and dynamic civilizations, some of which are now hidden beneath the shifting sands, waiting to reveal their secrets to those who venture into their forgotten corners. Among the most captivating stories from this ancient world is that of the oasis cities, vital lifelines to the survival of ancient trade routes. The Sahara may be immense and harsh, but these cities were strategically placed at critical intersections where water was abundant and trade could flourish. Oases such as Tadrart, Akakas, and Gat were once the beating heart of Saharan trade, providing shelter, water, and vital connections between the bustling civilizations of North Africa, the Mediterranean, and sub-Saharan Africa. These oasis cities were places where trade goods, like gold, salt, and ivory, were exchanged for luxury items from the Mediterranean world: wine, olive oil, and ceramics, as well as cultural and technological innovations. The lush oasis landscape, surrounded by the vast, seemingly endless desert, gave rise to thriving economies, supported by the movement of caravans and trade routes that traversed the Sahara. Historians still debate whether the oasis trade routes were initially developed by indigenous Berber tribes or introduced by the early Phoenician and Egyptian traders who ventured into the desert in search of gold. Some argue that the Berber tribes were the primary drivers of trade in the Sahara, using their nomadic lifestyles to adapt to the changing landscape, while others believe the Phoenicians and Egyptians played a significant role in establishing the earliest trade networks in the Sahara. What is clear, though, is that the oasis cities were not just centers of commerce. They were cultural and intellectual hubs as well. The caravans that passed through these cities didn't just bring goods. They brought ideas, the exchange of knowledge, art, and religion was just as important as the exchange of commodities. The ancient cities of the Sahara acted as crossroads where different civilizations met, collaborated, and influenced one another in profound ways. In fact, the spread of Islam across the Sahara during the 7th and 8th centuries further solidified these cities' roles as key centers of learning and cultural exchange. However, like the other civilizations of the Sahara, the oasis cities eventually faced their own set of challenges. As the Sahara slowly became more arid and the trade routes shifted, many of these cities began to wither. The spread of Islam through the region, which once brought prosperity to the oasis cities, also began to change the political and social landscape of the region. The Arab invaders and their new trade routes disrupted old ways of doing business, leaving many of the once thriving oasis cities in a state of decline. Historians argue whether the rise of Islam was the primary reason for the fall of these cities, or if it was simply the changing climate that made sustaining life in the Sahara more difficult. Some believe that the Arab conquests in the 7th century disrupted the established order, leading to the decline of the old Saharan trade networks. Others argue that the environmental changes, like the increasing desertification of the Sahara, forced the once thriving cities to abandon their oasis trade routes in search of more fertile regions. The collapse of the oasis cities marks the end of one of the Sahara's most prosperous eras. The cities that once acted as the desert's lifeblood, sustaining trade, culture, and civilization, were eventually abandoned, their grand buildings crumbling, and their vibrant markets falling silent. Yet even as these cities disappeared, the memory of their existence lingered in the ruins, reminding us of the resilience and ingenuity of the people who once called the Sahara home. But not all the forgotten cities of the Sahara faded into obscurity. Some left behind striking remnants of their once great architecture, such as the ruins of Ghadams, an ancient oasis city located near the border of Libya. The city, still inhabited today, is a living testament to the ingenuity of Saharan builders. Its old town is a labyrinth of narrow streets, whitewashed houses, and towering walls that were designed to protect the inhabitants from the scorching desert heat. The city's architectural design is an enduring legacy of the sophisticated engineering knowledge that ancient Saharan civilizations developed to survive in the harsh desert environment. Historians continue to study cities like Ghadams, seeking to understand how these architectural marvels were constructed without the aid of modern tools or technology. The use of natural resources, such as clay, stone, and palm wood, was essential in the creation of these structures. The homes were designed to maintain a cool interior temperature during the scorching desert summers, using thick walls to insulate against the intense heat. Ghadams remains one of the best preserved examples of Saharan architecture, providing valuable insight into the sustainable building practices of ancient desert civilizations. Despite the decline of many cities in the Sahara, some remnants of the past continue to live on. For example, the city of Tadrart Akakus, located in southwestern Libya, is home to some of the most impressive rock art in the world. This collection of prehistoric paintings and carvings provides a glimpse into the lives of the early Saharan peoples, showcasing scenes of hunting, herding, and ceremonial rituals. These rock paintings, which date back thousands of years, reveal the Sahara's once fertile and green landscape, filled with animals like elephants, cattle, and giraffes, a far cry from the desert we know today. Historians still debate whether the art in the Tadrart Akakus caves was created by the Saharan peoples themselves, or whether it was influenced by external civilizations. Some argue that the art reflects the ancient connections between the Sahara and other regions, such as the Nile Valley and North Africa. Others suggest that the paintings were a reflection of the Saharan people's understanding of the natural world, depicting the animals that once roamed the region. As you continue to explore these ancient cities and the remnants of their once thriving cultures, you begin to realize that the Sahara is not just a place of desolation. It is a place of resilience, innovation, and human achievement. The cities of the Sahara may be lost to time, but the stories of their rise and fall continue to captivate us, offering a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, civilizations can flourish, if only for a brief moment. The Sahara may have taken back much of what it once gave, But the memory of these golden ages remains forever etched in the sands of time. As the desert night deepens, you can almost feel the pulse of the Sahara's ancient rhythm beneath your feet. The stillness of the vast dunes might suggest an absence of life. But you know better. Beneath the sand lies a history of untold stories, cities that flourished and then vanished, not due to the inevitable forces of time, but due to human ambition, climate change, and shifting powers. Among the many forgotten civilizations of the Sahara, few have captured the imagination quite like the Garamantes. The Garamantes were no ordinary desert dwellers. They were masters of the Sahara, known for their innovative engineering, sophisticated trade networks, and the creation of a powerful kingdom that once stretched across what is now southern Libya. Their city, Garam, was a marvel of ancient design, built to survive in the harshest of environments. While much of their empire has disappeared beneath the sands, the ruins of their cities, with their underground water systems and advanced architecture, continue to stand as a testament to their resilience and ingenuity. What's most fascinating about the Garamantes is how they managed to thrive in an area that would seem completely inhospitable. Their kingdom was founded on an ancient understanding of the desert's most precious resource, water. Using a complex system of qanats, underground irrigation channels, the Garamantes were able to create a sustainable source of water, which allowed them to grow crops, raise livestock, and support a population in an otherwise barren land. These qanats, some of which stretched for miles, were vital lifelines to their cities, enabling them to become a powerful force in the Sahara's vast network of trade. Historians still argue whether the Garamantes were the first to develop these qanats, or if they borrowed the technique from other civilizations, such as the Persians. Some believe the Garamantes invented their own version, while others suggest that the technology came from the Middle East and was adapted to suit the unique demands of the Sahara. Regardless of where it originated, the qanats are a clear example of the Garamantes' ingenious ability to adapt to their environment and create a civilization in one of the harshest climates on Earth. But it wasn't just their water systems that made the Garamantes exceptional. Their trade networks spanned the entire Sahara, linking them to North Africa, Egypt, and even sub-Saharan Africa. The Garamantes traded in salt, gold, and ivory, commodities that were highly prized in the ancient world. They also played a crucial role in the trans-Saharan trade, acting as intermediaries between the civilizations of North Africa and the rich kingdoms to the south. Their cities were vibrant hubs of commerce, where goods from across the continent were exchanged, and the influence of the Garamantes stretched far beyond the borders of the Sahara. Historians still debate whether the Garamantes' wealth and power were the result of their own efforts, or if they were beneficiaries of the larger trans-Saharan trade networks that connected the Mediterranean world to sub-Saharan Africa. Some scholars argue that the Garamantes were independent traders in their own right, while others suggest that they flourished thanks to their strategic location along major trade routes. Either way, the Garamantes' success cannot be denied. Their kingdom lasted for centuries, surviving in a desert that many thought would be the end of them. However, like many civilizations, the Garamantes eventually succumbed to the forces of nature and human ambition. As the Sahara began to desertify, the Garamantes' water sources started to dry up. The same qanats that had sustained their civilization for centuries began to fail, and the kingdom was unable to adapt quickly enough to the changing climate. The rise of Islam in the 7th century also marked a significant shift in the political and social landscape of the region. The Garamantes, once the rulers of the Central Sahara, were eventually overshadowed by the Islamic caliphates, and their influence waned. Historians still argue whether the Garamantes' decline was due to environmental factors, like drought and desertification, or whether it was a result of political shifts and changing trade dynamics. Some believe that the Arab invasions and the spread of Islam disrupted the Garamantes' trade networks, while others argue that the desertification of the Sahara made it increasingly difficult for the Garamantes to maintain their water systems and sustain their population. Regardless of the cause, the once mighty Garamantes faded into obscurity, leaving behind only ruins and fragments of their once great civilization. But their legacy lives on, not just in the remnants of their cities, but in the stories they left behind. The Garamantes' ability to survive and thrive in the Sahara is a testament to human resilience and innovation. They were not simply survivors of the desert, they were pioneers, creating a civilization that was both highly advanced and uniquely suited to its environment. As you sit back and reflect on the rise and fall of the Garamantes, it becomes clear that their civilization was one of incredible adaptability and strategic thinking. The Garamantes understood the importance of water, the lifeblood of any civilization in the desert, and they developed sophisticated systems to ensure its survival. They mastered the art of trade, connecting distant cultures and facilitating the exchange of goods and ideas. Their kingdom was a bridge between the Mediterranean world and sub-Saharan Africa, and their influence can still be felt today in the way we think about survival in harsh environments. As the wind whispers across the desert sands, you can almost hear the echoes of the Garamantes' once vibrant cities. Their civilization may have faded, but their story lives on, reminding us of what it can be achieved when humans refuse to let the desert defeat them. As you drift further into the mysteries of the Sahara, you might start to wonder, what was it like for the people who once thrived in these harsh environments? How did they build cities, create thriving cultures, and trade across vast, seemingly uninhabitable lands? In the heart of the desert, cities that are little more than distant memories were once teeming with life. Oasis cities like Ghat and Qasr el-Hajar were once the pulse of Sahara's trade, flourishing against all odds, supported by the desert's most precious resource, water. As you continue this journey, let's uncover the secrets of these once great cities and the ingenious systems they employed to survive. Take Ghat, for instance, a fascinating city situated in the southwestern corner of the Sahara. In what is now Libya, at its peak, Ghat was an oasis city at the crossroads of major trade routes. Caravans carrying gold, salt, and ivory passed through, bringing immense wealth to the city. But Ghat wasn't just a stop for merchants. It was a thriving cultural center. The city's architecture, a unique blend of Berber and Islamic influences, tells the story of a society that was highly advanced, balancing the practical needs of desert life with the luxury of wealth brought in by trade. Historians still argue whether Ghat was truly the heart of Sahara trade, or if it was overshadowed by other cities such as Timbuktu. Some suggest that Ghat's location on the edge of the desert made it a critical point of contact between the Mediterranean world and sub-Saharan Africa, while others believe that its prominence was exaggerated compared to the more well-documented cities. Regardless of its rank in the trade hierarchy, what is clear is that Ghat's existence was a testament to human ingenuity. The city was not simply an oasis. It was a thriving hub where merchants from all over the world exchanged not just goods, but ideas, cultures, and technologies. Ghat's decline came much like the fall of many other desert cities, slowly and imperceptibly. At first, as the climate continued to shift, and the desert's expansion became harder to ignore, Ghat, like many others, found it difficult to sustain its population. With trade routes changing and political shifts in the region, Ghat began to lose its place as a primary trade stop. Climate change undoubtedly played a role, with decreasing rainfall and desertification gradually reducing the viability of once reliable water sources. Despite its decline, though, Ghat's legacy lives on in the remnants of its architecture and its position in the long history of the Sahara. While Ghat might be one of the more famous examples, there are others that speak to the incredible resilience of Saharan civilizations. The city of Qasr el-Hajar, though less well known, offers another glimpse into the genius of ancient desert communities. Qasr el-Hajar was an ancient Berber city, its ruins scattered in the northeastern part of the Sahara, built on a system of rock-cut homes that served as both living spaces and storage areas areas. The city was designed to help its inhabitants endure the searing heat of the desert. Its unique architectural design helped keep the temperature inside the buildings cooler than the air outside, making it one of the most innovative settlements in the Sahara. Historians continue to debate the origins of Qasr el-Hajar, with some claiming it was a Berber outpost, and others suggesting it was built by ancient Phoenician or Roman traders who once passed through the region. While evidence of direct Phoenician influence remains inconclusive, the unique design of Qasr el-Hajar certainly suggests a deep understanding of environmental adaptation. Like other cities in the Sahara, Qasr el-Hajar relied on an intricate system of water management and underground storage to support its population. These systems allowed its inhabitants to thrive in a region where water was scarce, a feat that requires both advanced engineering and an intimate knowledge of the desert. Despite their ingenuity, however, the people of Qasr el-Hajar, like many other Saharan civilizations, faced inevitable decline. As trade routes shifted and the desert expanded, the once bustling city fell silent. Today, Qasr el-Hajar exists only in ruins, yet the city's remains are a powerful reminder of the adaptability and resilience of those who once called the desert home. The story of these oasis cities reminds us of something important, that human civilizations are not simply victims of their environment. They are capable of transforming it. The people of the Sahara, through their ingenuity, found ways to harness the desert's resources, creating thriving cities where none should have existed. Their knowledge of the land, the water, and the trade routes enabled them to build civilizations that endured for centuries. While many of these cities have been lost to time, their stories endure, carried by the winds of the desert. As you continue to reflect on the cities of the Sahara, one question remains: why did these civilizations disappear? Was it simply a matter of time and nature, or were there deeper forces at work? Was the eventual decline of these cities inevitable due to the desertification of the Sahara, or did human conflict, disease, and economic shifts contribute to their fall? Historians still debate the causes of their decline. Some argue that the expansion of Islam in the 7th and 8th centuries shifted the political and economic landscape, rendering the once flourishing cities irrelevant. Others point to the changing climatic conditions as the ultimate reason these civilizations fell. Either way, their stories are woven into the fabric of the Sahara, carried through time by those who remember. Though the sands have buried these ancient cities, the ingenuity and resilience they embody continue to inspire us. The lost cities of the Sahara serve as a reminder that human civilizations are always evolving, adapting, and shaping the world around them. Even in the most unforgiving environments, humanity finds a way to survive, sometimes even thrive, leaving behind traces of their golden ages, forever etched in the desert's shifting sands. As the desert night settles in, the winds carry with them stories of once great civilizations that have all but disappeared, leaving behind only whispers in the sand. The Sahara, vast and unforgiving, may seem like a place of emptiness today, but it was once a hub of human achievement, where powerful kingdoms rose, thrived, and ultimately faded. The forgotten cities of the Sahara hold within them not just the history of their people, but also the remnants of incredible ingenuity. From the construction of elaborate trade networks to the creation of cities in the heart of the desert, these civilizations left behind a lasting legacy that continues to puzzle historians to this day. Let's take a moment to think about the importance of trade in these ancient desert societies. The Sahara, despite its barren appearance, was not an isolated world. It was a vast network of interconnected cities and cultures, where goods, ideas, and people flowed across the desert. The ancient Sahara was a trade crossroads, linking the Mediterranean world, the Near East, sub-Saharan Africa, and even parts of Europe. Salt, gold, ivory, and slaves were transported through the desert on long, grueling caravan journeys. These trade routes were vital to the economies of both North Africa and sub-Saharan Africa, making the Sahara a key player in the ancient global economy. The Sahara was not just a desert, it was an artery for exchange and growth. One of the most important trade routes was the trans-Saharan trade, which brought salt from the desert to the cities of West Africa, where it was exchanged for gold and other precious goods. For centuries, this trade route was the lifeblood of the Sahara's economy, supporting powerful kingdoms like the Garamantes, Timbuktu, and the Mali Empire. Salt, which was essential for preserving food, was so valuable that it was often traded ounce for ounce with gold. Historians still argue whether this trade dominance was the primary reason for the rise of the great Saharan civilizations, or whether it was the result of a combination of factors. Some believe that the Sahara's role as a crossroads between civilizations made it an ideal location for commerce and cultural exchange, while others suggest that it was the natural resources of the desert itself, like gold, salt, and precious metals, that fueled the growth of these societies. Either way, the rise of the Sahara's trade cities marks a pivotal moment in world history, where the desert transformed into a global marketplace, facilitating the flow of goods and ideas that shaped civilizations across 3 continents. Yet, the decline of these once thriving cities is as mysterious as their rise. What happened to the Garamantes, Autogast, and Timbuktu? What caused these cities, which were once prosperous, to be abandoned and left to the sands of time? While historians agree that a combination of factors contributed to their decline, one of the most significant was the climate. The Sahara, once a lush and fertile land, began to experience gradual desertification, making it increasingly difficult to sustain life. The same trade routes that once brought wealth to the region began to dry up as the environment became more hostile. The changing climate, with droughts and desertification spreading across the region, significantly reduced the Sahara's capacity to support large urban populations. The once vibrant oasis cities, which relied on underground irrigation systems and trade to survive, began to struggle as water sources dwindled. In the face of these challenges, the failure to adapt to the changing environment led to the eventual abandonment of many of the desert's greatest cities. Historians continue to debate how much of the decline was due to environmental factors versus political instability. Some scholars argue that the rise of new trade routes, particularly those around the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean, may have shifted the balance of power in the region, as empires like Rome and the Byzantine Empire expanded. Their dominance in trade networks could have weakened the once powerful Sahara trade routes. Others suggest that the Arab conquests in the 7th century, which spread Islam across the region, played a role in disrupting the traditional trade networks and political structures of the Sahara. But despite the decline of these ancient cities, their legacy endures. The Sahara, though often seen as a place of emptiness, is rich with the remains of civilizations that once flourished. Today, archaeologists continue to uncover the remnants of these lost cities, from the ruins of the Garamantes water systems to the rock art left behind by ancient Sahara peoples. These discoveries continue to provide new insights into how humans once lived and thrived in one of the most challenging environments on Earth. What is perhaps most fascinating about the Sahara's lost cities is the fact that they still hold secrets. The desert's shifting sands have not only buried physical structures, but also the knowledge, innovations, and stories of the people who lived there. Tadrart Akakus, for example, is home to some of the most striking rock art in the world. Ancient paintings that depict elephants, giraffes, and cattle, animals that once roamed the region when it was a lush and green environment. These ancient paintings give us a glimpse into a time when the Sahara was a very different place, a world teeming with life, rather than the vast, empty desert we see today. Historians still debate the exact origins of the rock art found in places like Tadrart Akakus. Some believe that the paintings are a record of the daily lives of the people who lived there, while others argue that they may represent spiritual beliefs or even rituals. The art, which dates back thousands of years, serves as a bridge between past and present, offering us a window into a world that has long since vanished. And while we may never fully understand the meaning behind these images, they serve as a reminder of the richness and complexity of life in the Sahara, long before the desert took over. As you continue your exploration of the forgotten cities of the Sahara, one thing becomes clear. The Sahara was once a thriving hub of civilization, a place where people found ways to adapt, innovate, and survive in an environment that seemed impossible. The cities of the Sahara may be gone, but their stories are far from forgotten. They live on in the ruins, the artifacts, and the stories passed down through generations. The Sahara, though it may be empty now, is not without its history. It is a place of hidden treasures, forgotten stories, and resilient civilizations that continue to fascinate and inspire those who seek to uncover their secrets. The night has grown deeper now, and the vast silence of the Sahara continues to wrap around you like an old, familiar blanket. As you sit with these thoughts, you can't help but imagine the lives of the people who once walked these ancient paths, those who thrived in what seems like an impossible environment. The Sahara, with its relentless dunes and scorching sun, might appear inhospitable, but to the civilizations that once called it home, it was a vibrant landscape, a place filled with promise, resources, and opportunity. Let's take a moment to reflect on the Berbers, one of the key groups that have long been associated with the Sahara. The Berbers, indigenous peoples of North Africa, have a deep and rich history in the desert. They are often seen as the nomadic stewards of the Sahara, adapting to and navigating the harshest conditions of the desert for centuries. Their culture, lifestyle, and influence shaped much of the history of the Sahara, and the legacy of the Berber peoples is still felt today. Historians continue to debate the origins of the Berber people, with some suggesting that they are descendants of the ancient Libyans, while others believe their roots go back even farther to the prehistoric peoples who lived in the region. What is clear, however, is that the Berbers have long been a vital part of Sahara culture, providing guidance, leadership, and expertise on survival in the desert. Their extensive knowledge of the land, how to navigate the sand dunes, where to find water, and how to adapt to the desert's unforgiving heat was essential for survival. The Berbers' ability to travel across the desert with ease made them the perfect people to act as guides for trade caravans and travelers crossing the Sahara. The Berbers weren't just skilled nomads, they were also influential traders, connecting the Mediterranean world with sub-Saharan Africa through an intricate system of trade routes. Salt, gold, ivory, and textiles were exchanged between these regions, and the Berbers played a crucial role in managing the flow of these precious goods. The trade networks they established in the Sahara were integral to the economies of both the North African kingdoms and the West African empires, such as Ghana and Mali. Historians still argue whether the Berbers were the sole architects of these trade networks, or if they were simply the facilitators of existing connections. Some believe the Berbers were the primary traders of the Sahara, while others suggest that they were more like the middlemen, linking already established trade routes between North Africa and sub-Saharan Africa. Regardless, the Berbers played a critical role in the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures that helped shape the Sahara's golden age. The rise of Islam in the 7th century further intertwined the Berbers with the broader history of the Sahara. As Islam spread across North Africa and into the desert, it brought new political systems, economic networks, and religious practices to the region. The Berbers, who had once been animists, gradually embraced Islam, becoming part of the larger Islamic world. As Islamic empires expanded, the Berbers played a crucial role in spreading the religion across the Sahara and into sub-Saharan Africa. Historians still debate the extent to which the Berber tribes were involved in the early spread of Islam across the desert. Some believe that the Berbers were the key agents of Islamization, while others suggest that their conversion was more gradual, influenced by the larger political and religious forces at play. Either way, the Berbers' embrace of Islam had a profound impact on the Sahara, shaping its politics, culture, and social structures for centuries to come. But just like the civilizations that preceded them, the Berber-dominated kingdoms of the Sahara eventually faced decline. The rise of new trade routes, the spread of Islam, and the expanding influence of the Ottoman Empire gradually shifted the balance of power in the Sahara. The once thriving trade networks began to erode, and the Berbers found themselves increasingly overshadowed by new political forces. The trans-Saharan trade, which had been the lifeblood of the Sahara, began to dwindle as new maritime trade routes were established, and empires to the north and south of the Sahara began to dominate the region. As the Sahara's trade routes declined, so too did the Berber kingdoms, and much of the desert was left to the sands. Historians still debate whether the Berber kingdom's decline was due primarily to external pressures or if it was a result of internal collapse. Some suggest that the arrival of European colonial powers in the 19th century had a devastating effect on the Berber states, while others argue that the collapse of trade networks and the desertification of the Sahara were more significant factors. Regardless, the Berbers' once thriving presence in the desert began to fade, and their cities were abandoned or overtaken by the expanding powers of the Ottoman Empire and later European colonizers. However, the legacy of the Berbers is not lost. Today, their culture continues to influence the people of North Africa. The Berber language, Tamazight, is still spoken by millions, and their traditions and customs remain an important part of the cultural fabric of the region. The Berber architecture, with its distinctive fortresses, villages, and marketplaces, still stands as a testament to the ingenuity and endurance of a people who made the Sahara their home for centuries. As you sit in the quiet of the desert night, you can almost hear the echoes of the Berbers' footsteps across the sands, guiding traders, traveling through the oases, and creating the vast network that once connected civilizations across continents. Their story is one of resilience, adaptation, and connection, a story that continues to shape the modern world. Even in the most remote corners of the Sahara, as the stars flicker above the endless dunes, a sense of deep history lingers in the air. The Sahara Desert, with its sprawling sands and harsh terrain, holds not just the remains of ancient cities, but also the stories of how these lost civilizations managed to survive, adapt, and thrive in one of the most unforgiving environments on Earth. The Saharan trade routes, which once spanned the length of the desert, were vital to the prosperity of cities like Timbuktu, Oulata, and Gadams, each playing a role in the rich, vibrant history of the region. But how did these ancient trade networks operate? And why did they ultimately fade into obscurity? At the heart of the Sahara's trade were the caravan routes, winding through vast stretches of desert, connecting the Mediterranean with sub-Saharan Africa. These routes carried not just goods, but ideas, technologies, and cultural influences between vastly different civilizations. Salt, one of the most valuable commodities in the ancient world, was traded in vast quantities, brought to cities like Timbuktu, where it was exchanged for gold, ivory, and slaves. For centuries, these trade routes linked the cultures of North Africa, the Middle East, and West Africa, creating a global exchange that was as crucial to the desert civilizations as any modern-day trade network. Timbuktu, once a thriving metropolis and a center of Islamic learning, stands out as one of the most iconic examples of the Sahara's golden age. It was home to a wealth of knowledge and manuscripts that are still being discovered today. Historians continue to debate the exact rise and decline of Timbuktu. Was it the decline of the trans-Saharan trade, or the spread of European colonialism that led to its fall. Some argue that as trade shifted to more coastal routes and Islamic power in the region grew, Timbuktu became less relevant as a trade center. Others believe that political instability and external conquests, like those from the Moroccans, disrupted the once thriving city. However, one thing is clear: the legacy of Timbuktu is far from forgotten, and its libraries, once packed with knowledge, continue to inspire modern historians and researchers to this day. While Timbuktu represents the apex of Saharan civilization, cities like Oualata and Ghadames also played a crucial role in shaping the trade dynamics of the region. Oualata, located on the southern edge of the Sahara in Mauritania, was known for its rich cultural exchange and significant influence on Islamic scholarship. Its architecture, with its intricate designs and grand mud brick structures, is a testament to the adaptability and ingenuity of those who lived there. As a vital stop along the trade route, Oualata was a key point for caravans traveling through the desert. Its marketplaces were filled with silks, spices, and precious stones, all exchanged for the salt and gold that flowed through the region. Yet, like many desert cities, Oualata eventually succumbed to the changing winds of history. The decline of the trade routes, combined with the environmental challenges of desertification, made survival increasingly difficult. And with the rise of Islamic empires, which controlled larger swaths of land and resources, the once flourishing Saharan trade cities began to lose their influence. Ghadames, a city in modern-day Libya, is another fascinating example of a Saharan city that prospered due to the Sahara's trade routes. Often referred to as the Pearl of the Desert, Ghadames was an oasis town known for its beautiful architecture and strategic location along the north-south trade route. The city's clay and stone buildings were designed to keep inhabitants cool during the hot Saharan summers. With intricate systems for air circulation and shade, Ghadames was not only a commercial hub, it was also a cultural crossroads, where Berber, Arab, and African influences came together to create a unique fusion of art, language, and tradition. The question that historians still wrestle with is, what caused the eventual decline of Ghadames? Was it the climate, or was it the shifting nature of trade routes and the rise of Islamic empires that led to its fall from grace? Much like the other Saharan cities, Ghadames struggled with declining trade routes and the difficulties of managing life in an ever more hostile desert environment. As trade moved to the coastal routes, cities like Ghadames lost their central importance in the broader trans-Saharan network. What was once an essential part of the Saharan economic system gradually became a forgotten outpost, its once bustling markets now silent. Historians debate whether the fall of these Saharan cities was truly due to environmental causes, such as desertification and changing climate patterns, or if it was a combination of these factors with the rise of new powers in Africa and the Mediterranean. Some argue that environmental factors like droughts and reduced rainfall made the cities unsustainable, while others suggest that political shifts, such as the rise of Islamic caliphates and European colonialism, played a more significant role in the collapse of Saharan trade. Still, some believe that the cities simply declined gradually as the landscape around them changed, eventually becoming isolated and abandoned. In the end, the lost cities of the Sahara are reminders of the ephemeral nature of civilization, how even the most vibrant, flourishing cities can be lost to time, buried beneath the sands of history. Yet, their stories remain, preserved in the remnants of their ruins and in the legacies they left behind. The Saharan trade routes and cities were not just about commerce. They were about connection, about the ways in which different cultures met, exchanged, and learned from one another. The Sahara, once a region of thriving trade and culture, now stands as a symbol of both the fragility and the resilience of human civilizations. These ancient cities, and the trade routes that once linked them, have become a part of the mystery of the desert. As you sit and reflect on the immense history beneath your feet, you realize that while the desert may be a place of silence now, it was once the setting of a rich tapestry of human life. The Sahara's golden age may have passed, but its story is far from over. The night sky above you stretches endlessly, as the desert's silence seems almost alive, pulsating with the memories of those who once lived here. The Sahara, vast and unforgiving, is a landscape that's seen the rise and fall of civilizations, its sands holding more than just dust and rock, but the remnants of lost cities, trade routes, and forgotten kings. The Sahara may seem empty, but beneath the dunes lie the whispers of stories that are still waiting to be told. Let's focus now on Autogast, one of the most important yet least understood cities of the Sahara. Located near the modern-day border of Algeria, Autogast was a thriving commercial hub and one of the largest cities in the ancient world, a place where the riches of West Africa flowed into the Mediterranean and beyond. Its strategic location on the trans-Saharan trade route made it a crossroads of culture, trade, and power. The city was not just a place of commerce. It was a place where civilizations met and exchanged goods, ideas, and innovations. Historians still debate the full extent of Autogast's importance. Some believe that it was the center of the Sahara's trade, while others argue that it was overshadowed by other great cities like Timbuktu. Regardless of its status among other cities, Autogast played a key role in shaping the economic landscape of the Sahara. The city was rich in gold, salt, and ivory, commodities that flowed through the Sahara to the Mediterranean and across the Islamic world. Its markets were filled with traders from all corners of Africa, exchanging precious materials and luxury goods. Yet, like many of the other great Saharan cities, Autogast's decline remains a mystery. What happened to this once thriving metropolis? Why did it fade into the desert, its ruins now barely visible beneath the sands? Historians continue to argue about the causes of its decline. Some suggest that the rise of new trade routes, particularly those that bypassed the Sahara, may have diminished Autogast's economic significance. Others point to the increasing desertification of the Sahara, which made it increasingly difficult to sustain life in the city. Some historians even suggest that the Islamic conquest of the region played a role in the city's demise. As the spread of Islam reshaped North Africa, trade routes shifted and new political powers emerged. The traditional Saharan trade networks, which had been the backbone of cities like Autogast, began to fade as new empires took control of the region's trade routes. The Moorish invasion of the 11th century, which brought Islam to much of North Africa, further disrupted the established order. Autogast's influence waned as new powers rose, and its once thriving markets fell silent. Despite the city's decline, Autogast's legacy lives on. Its role in the trans-Saharan trade helped connect sub-Saharan Africa to the Mediterranean world, fostering an exchange of goods, knowledge, and culture. The city was a cultural melting pot, where different people and cultures met and influenced one another. The Berbers, Arabs, and West Africans who lived and traded in Autogast contributed to a thriving cultural exchange that shaped the history of the Sahara. Autogast, like other cities in the region, was a bridge between Africa, Europe, and the Middle East, a crossroads of civilizations that has largely been forgotten. As you reflect on Autogast, it's hard not to feel a sense of awe at the accomplishments of those who once lived here. The city was a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of its people, who found a way to thrive in one of the most inhospitable regions on Earth. The ruins of Autogast are scattered across the desert, offering only a glimpse of the city's former glory. But even in its decline, the city's legacy continues to inspire historians, archaeologists, and adventurers who seek to uncover the secrets of the Sahara. As you sit in the quiet of the desert night, you begin to understand just how interconnected the ancient world was. The Sahara, once a major trade route and cultural hub, connected far-flung civilizations in a way that few other regions could. The ancient cities of the Sahara, like Autogast, were not isolated. They were part of a global network that spanned continents and linked people from vastly different cultures. In the cities of the Sahara, the world came together in a shared space, where trade, ideas, and religion were exchanged freely. Historians continue to argue whether the Sahara's lost cities were the result of external forces, or whether the collapse of these civilizations was an internal affair. Some suggest that the arrival of Islam in the region caused the decline of the ancient Sahara kingdoms, while others believe that environmental factors, such as the desertification of the Sahara, played a more significant role. Regardless of the cause, what's clear is that the cities of the Sahara were not just trading hubs. They were cultural centers where civilizations met and mingled. As the Sahara continues to reveal its secrets, the lost cities of the desert stand as reminders of a time when the world was much more connected than we often realize. The golden ages of these cities may be gone, but their stories remain buried beneath the sands, waiting to be rediscovered. Even though these cities may no longer exist in the way they once did, their influence still lingers in the world today. The Sahara, once a thriving crossroads of culture, commerce, and knowledge, is no longer just a desert. It's a living monument to human resilience, innovation, and the enduring quest for connection across borders. And as you sit in this desert's quiet embrace, you can almost hear the echoes of the ancient caravans, the bustling markets, and the voices of those who once called the Sahara home as you continue your exploration through the rich and arid landscape of the Sahara. The feeling that the desert is far from empty becomes more and more undeniable. With every shift of the wind and every grain of sand that slips through your fingers, you are reminded of the resilience of the civilizations that once flourished here. The Sahara was once a vibrant and dynamic world, teeming with life, culture, and innovation. Its cities weren't just places of trade and commerce. They were centers of learning, art, and religion, where the flow of knowledge was as important as the flow of goods. Take the case of Timbuktu, one of the most well-known cities of the Sahara and the westernmost point of the great trans-Saharan trade routes. Today, Timbuktu is often seen as the symbol of Africa's intellectual legacy, a city that became famous not just for its wealth, but for its scholarship, libraries, and universities. It was the heart of the Mali Empire, one of the most powerful empires in West Africa, and its golden age was marked by the flourishing of Islamic learning and culture. Timbuktu wasn't just a trading city, it was also a thriving intellectual hub, home to some of the greatest scholars of the ancient world. Scholars from across the Islamic world traveled to Timbuktu to study, write, and exchange ideas. The city became a center for Islamic education, with numerous madrasas, Islamic schools, and libraries that housed priceless manuscripts. These manuscripts covered a wide range of topics, from mathematics and astronomy to history and law. The intellectual legacy of Timbuktu is unparalleled, and its impact on the development of Islamic scholarship in Africa cannot be overstated. Historians continue to debate the true extent of Timbuktu's intellectual achievements. Some argue that the city was a beacon of Islamic learning, while others suggest that its scholarly reputation was exaggerated over time. Regardless, there's no denying that Timbuktu was, at its peak, a true center of knowledge, culture, and trade. It was a place where ideas flowed just as freely as gold and salt, and where intellectual exchange helped shape the future of the Sahara and beyond. However, Timbuktu's story is not just one of success. Like many great civilizations, its decline came when the forces of nature and politics shifted beyond its control. As the Mali Empire began to crumble, and external pressures from neighboring empires mounted, Timbuktu's status as a center of power and influence began to wane. The rise of new powers, like the Moroccan invasion in the 16th century, further weakened Timbuktu's position. The city eventually lost its place as a thriving intellectual center, and its manuscripts and libraries were scattered, many destroyed or lost to time. Historians still debate the causes of Timbuktu's decline. Was it the fall of the Mali Empire and the shifting balance of power in West Africa? Or was it the Moroccan invasion that permanently weakened the city? Some argue that the trans-Saharan trade routes that once sustained Timbuktu's economy shifted, leaving the city more isolated and vulnerable to outside forces. Others suggest that the environmental pressures of desertification and climate change played a more significant role in the city's decline. Regardless, the loss of Timbuktu's intellectual and cultural prominence marked the end of an era in Saharan history. But despite its decline, Timbuktu's legacy endures. Today, the city's manuscripts and historical records continue to inspire scholars and researchers around the world. Timbuktu's history serves as a reminder of the intellectual and cultural wealth that once flourished in the Sahara. The city was not just a place of trade, but a symbol of the Sahara's ability to foster human achievement. Even in the harshest environments, the loss of Timbuktu and other Saharan cities is a reflection of a larger trend in the Sahara, a trend marked by the changing fortunes of desert trade routes and the shifting dynamics of climate and politics. But the stories of these cities, their golden ages, and their intellectual legacies continue to live on. They are a testament to the ingenuity of people who, against all odds, created thriving civilizations in one of the most challenging environments on Earth. As the Sahara's sandstorms drift across the landscape, you might find yourself wondering, what can we learn from these lost cities? What wisdom can we gain from the civilizations that once mastered the desert? Perhaps the most important lesson is that even in the harshest environments, humans have an extraordinary ability to adapt, innovate, and thrive. The Saharan civilizations were not simply survivors. They were pioneers, pushing the boundaries of what was possible in their time. Historians continue to study these ancient cities, piecing together fragments of their past through archaeology, ancient texts, and oral traditions. The Sahara, once seen as a barren wasteland, has become a treasure trove of history, waiting to reveal its secrets. And as we uncover these hidden gems, we are reminded of the resilience of the human spirit. The same spirit that built the oasis cities, the trade routes, and the intellectual hubs that once made the Sahara one of the most important regions in the ancient world. The Sahara may be a desert now, but it was once a land where life and culture flourished. Its forgotten cities remind us that even in the most unforgiving places, human creativity and determination can leave an enduring legacy. The sands may have buried these cities, but their stories remain, waiting to be discovered, to be remembered, and to inspire future generations. As the cool breeze sweeps across the endless dunes, you realize just how much the Sahara's vastness mirrors the stories of the civilizations that once thrived here. There's an undeniable sense of mystery that lingers in the desert air, as though the wind is whispering the forgotten tales of the Sahara's lost cities. And with every step, you uncover more about these once thriving metropolises, their rise and fall forever linked to the ever-changing environment of this unforgiving desert. One of the most significant aspects of these lost cities is how they were able to adapt to the desert's extreme conditions. While it seems impossible to imagine flourishing cities in such a hostile environment, the people of the Sahara did exactly that. They built innovative systems for water management, agriculture, and trade, turning a barren landscape into a land of abundance. Their ability to survive and thrive in the Sahara was a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of ancient civilizations. Take the ancient city of Oued el-Kefif, for example. Situated in what is now Algeria, this once great city flourished thanks to its innovative use of underground water systems and terraced farming. The residents of Oued el-Kefif tapped into the desert's underground aquifers, creating complex irrigation channels that allowed them to grow crops in a region where rain was scarce. Their ability to harness water from underground sources helped sustain their agricultural society for centuries. Historians still debate how such advanced water management systems were developed in the Sahara. Some argue that the residents of Oued el-Kefif were influenced by ancient Egyptian engineering techniques, while others suggest that they developed their systems independently, adapting to the unique conditions of the desert. Regardless of the origins of these technologies, the ability to cultivate crops and sustain life in the desert was an incredible achievement. The people of Oued el-Kefif were not merely surviving, they were thriving, building a society that could endure for generations. But like many other desert cities, Oued el-Kefif eventually succumbed to the changing environment. As the Sahara continued to dry up and desertification took hold, the city's once abundant water sources began to dwindle. Historians argue that the loss of access to water, combined with the shifting trade routes and external pressures, contributed to the eventual decline of the city. Some even speculate that internal conflicts may have played a role in the collapse of Oued el-Kefif. As resources became increasingly scarce, and competition for access to water intensified. Despite its decline, Oued el-Kefif's legacy continues to resonate. Its innovative irrigation systems and its ability to adapt to one of the harshest environments on Earth serve as a powerful reminder of human resilience. Even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, the people of the Sahara found ways to thrive, creating civilizations that were not just survivors, but pioneers of sustainable living in the desert. Another remarkable example of Saharan ingenuity is the city of Kumbi Saleh, the capital of the ancient Ghana Empire. Once a powerful kingdom located near the Niger River, Kumbi Saleh was a thriving trade city that connected West Africa to the rest of the world. At its peak, Kumbi Saleh was home to thousands of people and was a bustling center of commerce, culture, and political power. The city's wealth was built on the trade of gold, salt, and ivory, which flowed through its markets, attracting traders from across the Sahara and beyond. What's especially interesting about Kumbi Saleh is that it was a cultural melting pot where different peoples and traditions intersected. The city's Islamic influence grew as trade routes connected Kumbi Saleh to the wider Muslim world, bringing with it new ideas, technologies, and religious practices. Yet Kumbi Saleh also retained many of its indigenous traditions, creating a unique blend of African and Islamic cultures. This fusion of cultures helped shape the identity of the Ghana Empire, making it one of the most influential and prosperous civilizations in West Africa. Historians continue to debate the cause of Kumbi Saleh's decline. Some suggest that the city fell victim to the changing dynamics of the trans-Saharan trade routes, which shifted as the Mali Empire rose to prominence. Others point to the Moorish invasions in the 11th century as a key factor in the empire's fall. The rise of new political powers and the decline of traditional trade routes gradually led to the weakening of Kumbi Saleh's influence, and the city eventually fell into ruin. Even so, Kumbi Saleh's impact on the Sahara and the wider world cannot be overstated. The city's trade networks and its role as a cultural crossroads helped to shape the course of history in West Africa, and the legacy of the Ghana Empire continues to live on, not just in the ruins of Kumbi Saleh, but in the rich cultural traditions that still thrive in the region today. As you sit in the stillness of the desert, you begin to realize just how interconnected the Sahara's civilizations were. These ancient cities, separated by vast distances and harsh environments, were part of a larger network of trade, culture, and knowledge. They were not isolated, but part of a broader exchange of ideas and goods that spanned across Africa, the Mediterranean, and beyond. The Sahara, once seen as an obstacle to civilization, was in fact a hub of innovation, where human beings found ways to overcome the challenges of their environment and build thriving societies. Historians still debate whether the decline of these great Saharan cities was inevitable, given the harsh environment and changing political landscape, or whether it was caused by external forces like the rise of new empires, invasions, and shifting trade routes. Some suggest that the environmental challenges of desertification and climate change played a central role, while others point to the rise of Islamic empires as a key factor in the transformation of the region. Regardless of the cause, one thing is certain: the legacy of these lost cities continues to inspire and fascinate those who seek to uncover the hidden history of the Sahara. As you sit with these thoughts, you realize that the story of the Sahara's forgotten cities is not just about the past. It's about human resilience, adaptation, and the ability to thrive in the most unforgiving of environments. The Sahara may have swallowed these cities, but their stories live on, waiting to be uncovered and remembered as a testament to the ingenuity and spirit of the people who once called this vast desert home. As you sit back and let the desert silence envelop you, there's a sense that the Sahara, though vast and seemingly empty, has much more to reveal. Beneath the endless sands lie the remnants of ancient trade routes, cities that once hummed with life, and civilizations that mastered the art of survival in one of the most unforgiving places on Earth. The Sahara, while now often associated with emptiness and desolation, was once the beating heart of the trans-Saharan trade, the crossroads of Africa, Europe, and Asia. The great cities of the Sahara were not just isolated desert settlements. They were global hubs of culture, commerce, and knowledge, shaping the world for centuries. The question that lingers is, why did these once thriving cities and civilizations vanish? What caused the decline of the Sahara's golden age? To understand this, we must delve deeper into the climatic shifts that altered the landscape of the Sahara and the lives of its people. The Sahara's transformation from a lush, fertile region to the vast desert we know today wasn't a sudden event. It was a gradual process that took place over thousands of years. Historians still argue whether the climate change that led to the Sahara's desertification was driven primarily by natural factors, or if it was influenced by human activity. Some believe that the gradual changes in the Earth's orbit and axial tilt were responsible for the long-term drying of the region, while others argue that human activities, such as overgrazing and deforestation, contributed to the process. What's clear is that the Sahara, once home to rivers, lakes, and grasslands, slowly became less hospitable to the civilizations that had once thrived there. But the environmental changes weren't the only factor in the decline of the Sahara's ancient cities. As trade routes shifted and new political powers rose, many of the great Saharan cities found themselves losing their importance. The rise of Islam, which spread across North Africa in the 7th century, brought significant changes to the Sahara. The new religious and political landscape shifted the balance of power, with Arab dynasties and Islamic empires controlling much of the trade and commerce that had once passed through the Sahara. The spread of Islam had a profound effect on the Sahara, particularly in the western regions, where cities like Timbuktu became important centers of Islamic learning and culture. While this cultural exchange was a great achievement, it also meant that the once flourishing indigenous systems of trade and governance began to decline. The influence of the Berber tribes, who had long been stewards of the desert, began to wane as the new political and religious structures took hold. Historians still debate the extent to which the Arab expansion played a role in the downfall of the Sahara's golden age. Some argue that the Arab invasions disrupted the traditional Saharan trade routes, while others believe that the decline was more related to the shifting dynamics of power and the emergence of new trade routes. The rise of maritime trade routes, for example, shifted the flow of commerce from the desert to the coasts, leaving the once vibrant Sahara trade cities in decline. But despite the changing tides of history, the legacy of these civilizations remains. The trade networks, the cultural exchange, and the innovative technologies developed in the Sahara continue to influence the world today. The Berber architecture, the Islamic scholarship, and the trade systems that once defined the Sahara are still felt in modern-day North Africa and beyond. Perhaps one of the most remarkable aspects of the Sahara's lost cities is how they continue to captivate the imaginations of those who study them. Archaeologists, historians, and adventurers continue to uncover new artifacts, manuscripts, and ruins, shedding light on the lives of the people who once called the desert home. The discovery of ancient manuscripts in the libraries of Timbuktu, for example, has provided invaluable insight into the intellectual achievements of the people of the Sahara. While the ruins of ancient cities like Gadams and Oued el-Kefif continue to reveal the remarkable architectural and engineering feats that allowed these civilizations to thrive in the desert. As modern technology advances, new methods of archaeological discovery are being employed to explore the desert's hidden treasures. Satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, and other technologies are helping researchers uncover cities and trade routes that were once lost to time. It's possible that much more of the Sahara's history remains buried beneath the sands, waiting for the right combination of technology and expertise to bring it to light. While we may never fully understand all the reasons behind the decline of the Sahara's great civilizations, one thing is clear: the legacy of these forgotten cities continues to influence us today. The Sahara, once a thriving network of trade, culture, and knowledge, is now a place of silence, but its impact on the course of human history is profound. The golden ages of the Sahara may have passed, but the echoes of these ancient cities still reverberate through time, reminding us of what was once possible in the most unforgiving of environments. As you sit in the quiet desert night, you can almost feel the weight of history around you. The Sahara, though barren and still, has much more to teach us. The lost cities of the desert may be gone, but their legacy continues to shape the world today. From the ancient trade networks that connected distant lands to the cultural and intellectual achievements of the people who once lived here, the Sahara's history is a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, civilizations can rise, flourish, and leave behind a legacy that endures for centuries. As the night settles into a still silence, the stories of the Sahara's lost cities continue to echo, carried by the shifting sands. What remains of these civilizations? Fragments of walls, distant ruins, and the faint traces of once thriving cities tell us that the Sahara wasn't always the empty, hostile desert we often think of today. In fact, the Sahara once flourished as a crossroads of culture, trade, and innovation. The people who lived here were able to create complex societies in one of the world's most challenging environments, mastering the art of survival in the desert. But as we reflect on these ancient cities, it's impossible to ignore the profound impact that the trans-Saharan trade routes once had on shaping the region. The Sahara, often seen as a barrier, became a bridge that connected far-flung civilizations. It was through these trade routes that the goods, ideas, and knowledge from West Africa, the Mediterranean, and the Arab world converged. The golden age of the Sahara was marked by the constant flow of caravans laden with salt, gold, ivory, and luxury goods, crossing the vast desert to reach the great empires of Mali, Ghana, and Carthage. At the heart of this trans-Saharan trade were the camel caravans, whose drivers, often skilled Berber guides, made their way across the desert with precision and expert knowledge. These caravans connected the Mediterranean world to sub-Saharan Africa, and the bustling oasis cities that lined the desert's edges became thriving centers of commerce, culture, and intellectual exchange. The camel was essential for traversing the harsh desert landscape. Its ability to go without water for long stretches of time, making it the perfect companion for the long journeys across the dunes. These caravans didn't just carry goods. They carried stories, technologies, and religions that spread across the Sahara, shaping the cultural fabric of the region. However, as the centuries passed, the shifting nature of the Sahara began to take its toll. Climate change, which slowly transformed the desert from a lush environment to the arid region we know today, was a slow but devastating force. The Sahara's drying trend continued, and many of the cities that once relied on oasis systems, like Timbuktu and Gadams, began to face resource depletion, with access to water becoming increasingly difficult and trade routes shifting away from the desert. Many of these cities began to decline, but what exactly caused this shift? Was it the environmental factors that rendered the region less hospitable, or was it the changing dynamics of political power, trade, and religion that led to their eventual demise? Historians continue to debate the primary causes of the Sahara's decline. Some scholars argue that it was the rise of maritime trade routes, which bypassed the desert entirely, that led to the decline of the once thriving trans-Saharan trade routes. The development of sea routes along the Mediterranean and the Atlantic allowed goods to flow more efficiently and with less risk. This shift ultimately made the desert trade routes less relevant. Others point to the spread of Islam and the growing Arab influence across North Africa, which changed the political landscape of the Sahara and altered its once thriving trade networks. With the rise of Islamic empires, new centers of power emerged, and the traditional Berber kingdoms began to lose their political influence. Still, others suggest that the environmental degradation caused by centuries of overgrazing and deforestation played a more central role in the Sahara's decline. The once vibrant agricultural societies that had grown around the desert's oases struggled to adapt to the increasingly harsh environment. As the water tables dropped and the climate worsened, many of the desert cities faced the overwhelming challenge of survival. It's likely that the collapse of the Sahara's cities was not caused by any one factor, but rather by a complex combination of climate change, political shifts, and the changing nature of trade. Despite the challenges they faced, the civilizations that once flourished in the Sahara have left behind a rich legacy that continues to inspire modern historians and archaeologists. The ancient cities of the Sahara were not simply victims of the desert. They were pioneers, adapting to one of the most unforgiving environments on Earth. Their architectural feats, like the underground water systems of the Garamantes and the cooling techniques used in Gadames, show a profound understanding of how to survive and thrive in such a harsh climate. These cities were centers of trade, knowledge, and cultural exchange, and their influence can still be seen today in the art, architecture, and trade routes that have shaped the world. The Sahara may have swallowed these ancient cities, but their legacy is far from forgotten. As we continue to uncover their stories, we are reminded of the incredible resilience and resourcefulness of those who lived in the desert. The Sahara may be a place of silence now, but it was once a vibrant world, a world that connected civilizations, traded goods, and shared ideas. Its ancient cities are the forgotten crossroads of human history, where empires, cultures, and religions met and exchanged, leaving a lasting mark on the world. Historians still argue about the precise reasons for the decline of the Sahara's once great cities, but one thing is clear: their legacy continues to shape the modern world. The Sahara, despite its desertification and the rise of new powers, remains a powerful symbol of human adaptation and innovation. The stories of these lost cities, buried beneath the sand, serve as a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, humanity can thrive, create, and leave behind a legacy that will echo through the ages. As the desert stretches out beneath the infinite stars, you can't help but feel a deep connection to the civilizations that once called the Sahara home. While the sands may have swallowed their cities, the memories of these civilizations live on in the ruins they left behind. The Sahara, once a region of bustling trade, cultural exchange, and intellectual development, now seems empty, but beneath the surface, there's an undercurrent of history waiting to be rediscovered. The forgotten cities of the Sahara are not just relics of the past. They are living testaments to human resilience, creativity, and the will to survive in the most extreme conditions. The people who once thrived here weren't just survivors of the desert. They were innovators who turned the harshest environment into a cradle of culture, knowledge, and trade. Cities like Timbuktu, Ghadams, and Oued el-Kefif were centers of not just commerce, but also learning, science, and art. These cities were places where ideas flowed as freely as goods, where scholars and traders from across Africa, the Middle East, and Europe gathered to share knowledge, exchange goods, and build a shared future. Timbuktu, perhaps the most famous of these cities, was not only a center of trade, but a beacon of intellectual achievement. It was here that manuscripts, books, and texts covering a range of subjects from mathematics to astronomy were produced and exchanged. Timbuktu was home to one of the first universities in Africa and became a renowned center of learning in the Islamic world. Its libraries, once filled with priceless manuscripts, were at the heart of the intellectual and cultural exchange that took place along the trans-Saharan trade routes. Today, many of these manuscripts continue to be discovered, offering a glimpse into a time when the Sahara was a hub of scholarship. Historians still argue about how Timbuktu's intellectual legacy has been remembered. Some claim that the city's contributions have been underestimated, while others point out that the focus on its trade legacy has overshadowed the city's academic importance. Regardless, the story of Timbuktu serves as a reminder of the importance of intellectual exchange and how the desert once served as a bridge between Islamic and African cultures, a place where learning and trade went hand in hand. But the decline of these cities raises the question, what happened? What forces led to the fall of civilizations that seemed so firmly rooted in the desert? It is clear that environmental and political shifts played major roles in their decline. The rise of Islam in the 7th century, the expansion of the Ottoman Empire, and the spread of colonialism by European powers all contributed to the shifting power dynamics in the region. As these political shifts took place, the cities that once thrived along the trans-Saharan trade routes found themselves losing their influence. Climate change also played a significant role in the eventual downfall of these Saharan cities. As the Sahara became more arid and the once reliable oasis systems dried up, the cities that depended on water from underground aquifers or surface springs were increasingly unable to sustain their populations. Desertification took hold, making it more difficult for ancient agricultural systems to thrive. Over time, the lush, green landscapes that supported life in the Sahara were replaced by the barren sand dunes we see today. Historians still debate whether the climate or political changes played a more significant role in the decline of these cities. Some argue that the shifting trade routes, combined with the environmental challenges posed by desertification, made the Sahara's cities unsustainable. Others point to the changing political landscape as the primary driver of the decline, with Islamic empires and the spread of colonialism disrupting the old ways of life. Whatever the cause, it is clear that these great cities, once centers of knowledge, culture, and trade, were unable to withstand the forces of change. Despite this, the legacy of these cities lives on. The artifacts, manuscripts, and ruins left behind by these ancient civilizations continue to offer valuable insight into a time when the Sahara was a thriving center of life. Archaeologists and historians continue to uncover the secrets of the past, piecing together the puzzle of what happened to these once great cities. The ruins of Timbuktu, Ghadams, and Oued el-Kefif serve as powerful reminders that even in the most unforgiving environments, human ingenuity and resilience can build societies that flourish and endure. The Sahara, once seen as an inhospitable land, was in fact home to some of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. The lost cities of the Sahara are not just relics of the past, they are living legacies of the people who adapted, innovated, and thrived in a harsh and unforgiving world. Today, as we uncover these forgotten civilizations, we are reminded of the incredible resilience of the human spirit. These cities may have fallen, but the stories they left behind continue to inspire and remind us of what humanity is capable of. Even in the most extreme conditions, as you sit in the quiet of the desert night, listening to the soft whispers of the wind, you realize that the Sahara is not just a place of silence and emptiness. It is a place of history, innovation, and resilience, where civilizations once thrived and connected the world in ways that continue to influence us today. The cities of the Sahara may be gone, but their legacy lives on, waiting to be rediscovered, appreciated, and remembered as the wind picks up, sweeping the sands across the barren landscape. A strange feeling of reverence begins to settle over you. The Sahara, with all its desolation and grandeur, has always been a symbol of both the unforgiving and the incredible. In the harshest of environments, civilizations once thrived, proving that the human spirit is capable of remarkable adaptation and innovation. The lost cities of the Sahara may now lie buried under centuries of sand, but their stories remain etched in time, waiting to be uncovered. Piece by piece, they were once centers of trade, culture, and knowledge, helping to bridge civilizations that might never have met had it not been for the Sahara's ancient trade routes. The role of trade in shaping these ancient Sahara cities cannot be overstated. These cities were more than just places where goods were exchanged. They were vibrant hubs of culture and ideas. It was through trade that the Sahara connected North Africa, Europe, and sub-Saharan Africa. Goods like gold, salt, ivory, and spices were transported across vast distances, enriching not only the Sahara, but also the civilizations that participated in this commerce. But it wasn't just the goods that made these trade routes so significant. It was the exchange of knowledge, which allowed these cities to flourish and grow into powerful cultural and intellectual centers. Take Timbuktu, for instance. It wasn't just a thriving trade city. It was also a beacon of Islamic learning, where scholars from all over the Islamic world came to study. The city became renowned for its libraries and universities, where manuscripts filled with knowledge on subjects such as astronomy, mathematics, medicine, and philosophy were studied and preserved. Timbuktu's intellectual legacy still survives today, as scholars continue to unearth ancient manuscripts that provide valuable insights into the rich history of the Sahara and the broader African continent. Historians still argue whether Timbuktu's golden age was fueled more by its role as a trade hub or by its intellectual prowess. Some believe that the city's wealth and cultural influence came from its status as a trade crossroads, while others suggest that its intellectual achievements were the true drivers of its success. Regardless of the exact cause, what is clear is that Timbuktu was a city at the crossroads of commerce and knowledge, where the Saharan trade routes intersected with the intellectual currents of the Islamic world. Yet, like many of the Sahara's great cities, Timbuktu eventually saw its decline. As the trans-Saharan trade routes shifted, the city's once thriving markets grew quieter. The arrival of European colonial powers further altered the political and economic dynamics of the region, and the Moroccan invasion in the 16th century dealt a blow to Timbuktu's political and cultural standing. Despite these challenges, the legacy of Timbuktu endures, not just in the ruins and manuscripts that have survived, but in the ideas and cultural exchanges that shaped the wider world. The decline of Timbuktu was not unique. Other cities like Gadamès, Oualata, and Autogast, which once thrived along the trans-Saharan trade routes, faced similar challenges. As the Sahara slowly became more arid and the desert expanded, these cities struggled to maintain their resources and population. Desertification and climate change played a significant role in the decline of these ancient cities, as their once reliable water sources began to dry up. But it wasn't just the environment that brought about their downfall. It was the changing trade dynamics and political shifts that made their economies less sustainable. as new maritime trade routes opened up, bypassing the Sahara. The cities that had once been the heart of the trans-Saharan commerce began to lose their influence. The rise of Islamic empires, the spread of Islam, and the shifting power structures in the Mediterranean and West Africa all contributed to the decline of these great desert cities. As trade routes changed and new political powers emerged, the Sahara's ancient cities found themselves isolated, unable to compete with the expanding powers of the north and south. Despite the decline of these once great cities, the legacy of the Sahara's civilizations continues to inspire modern historians, archaeologists, and adventurers. The trade routes, the cultural exchange, and the innovative technologies that once defined these cities have left a lasting mark on the world. Even as the desert encroaches on the ruins of these civilizations, their influence can still be seen today in the cultures, trade networks, and intellectual achievements that trace their origins to the Sahara. The lost cities of the Sahara stand as reminders of what human civilization is capable of. Resilience, adaptation, and creativity in the face of adversity. The Sahara, once seen as an obstacle to civilization, proved to be a crossroads, a place where cultures met, ideas were exchanged, and human ingenuity thrived. The cities of the Sahara may have fallen, but their legacy lives on, waiting to be rediscovered, explored, and remembered. As you sit in the quiet desert, surrounded by the whispers of history, you realize that the Sahara is not just a place of silence, it is a place of legacy. The stories of these lost cities, their trade, their scholarship, and their ingenuity continue to reverberate through time, and as we uncover these stories, we gain not just a deeper understanding of the Sahara's past, but a greater appreciation for the resilience and innovation that continue to shape the world today. The desert winds sweep across the barren land, carrying with them not only the whispers of the past, but the secrets of civilizations that once thrived in this unforgiving environment. The Sahara may seem empty now, its endless dunes seemingly devoid of life, but underneath the sand, there are remnants of powerful empires, thriving cities, and ancient trade routes that once connected continents. The story of these lost cities and the people who lived in them is one of remarkable ingenuity, adaptability, and cultural exchange, a testament to the ability of human civilizations to flourish even in the most challenging of environments. The Sahara, despite its harsh conditions, was once a vital center for trade, commerce, and knowledge. The Sahara's ancient cities were not isolated outposts. They were dynamic hubs of cultural exchange, scholarship, and commerce. As one of the world's oldest trade routes, the Sahara served as the connective tissue between Africa, Europe, and the Middle East, enabling the exchange of not only goods like salt, gold, and ivory, but also ideas, technologies, and religious beliefs. Take Timbuktu, for example, a city that once stood as the center of intellectual life in Africa. It wasn't just a city of trade. It was a city of learning, where scholars from across the Islamic world gathered to study and share knowledge. Manuscripts detailing subjects such as astronomy, mathematics, and history were written and preserved here, making Timbuktu an intellectual beacon in a world that was still navigating the complexities of science and culture. Historians still argue about the true nature of Timbuktu's wealth and influence. Some claim it was its trade network, while others focus on its role as a cultural and scholarly hub. One thing is clear: Timbuktu was a vital crossroads for the Saharan trade routes, and its influence extended far beyond the borders of the Sahara. The city, at its peak, was a cosmopolitan center of Islamic scholarship, where books and manuscripts were as valuable as gold, and where knowledge flowed freely between Africa and the Arab world. However, as time passed, the glory of Timbuktu faded. Just as the Garamantes and Odogast fell, so too did Timbuktu's position of power. Some argue that it was the rise of new trade routes that bypassed the Sahara, while others suggest the Moroccan invasion of the 16th century dealt the final blow to the city. The spread of European colonialism and the rise of the Ottoman Empire further shifted the balance of power in North Africa, and Timbuktu's once great influence dwindled. Despite its decline, the story of Timbuktu's intellectual legacy endures. Many of its manuscripts, some of which date back centuries, continue to be discovered, offering insights into the rich history of the city and the wider Saharan world. The legacy of Timbuktu as a center of learning and cultural exchange serves as a reminder of the Sahara's importance as a crucial hub in the ancient world, a place where trade, knowledge, and religion converged in ways that shaped civilizations far beyond the desert. But the decline of Timbuktu is not just the story of one city. It's the story of the transformation of the Sahara itself. As the climate shifted and the desert expanded, many of the Sahara's other cities, such as Oualata and Ghadams, also began to fade. The rise of Islam across the region, the spread of new empires, and the changing course of global trade all played a role in the decline of these once thriving hubs of commerce and culture. The desertification of the Sahara itself was another key factor in the demise of many of these cities. Once lush with vegetation and watered by the Niger and other rivers, the Sahara's gradual transformation into the arid landscape we see today made it increasingly difficult to sustain large urban populations. As the climate grew drier, the oasis cities that once dotted the Sahara's landscape were unable to maintain the same level of trade or cultural influence. The shift of trade routes, both inland and along the coast, contributed to the loss of these cities' prominence. Historians continue to debate the causes of the Sahara's transformation and the subsequent fall of its cities. Was it primarily environmental? Was it the changing political landscape? Or were external factors, such as the rise of Islam and the expansion of European colonial powers, the primary drivers behind the decline of the Sahara's once thriving cities? Regardless of the exact causes, the end of the Sahara's golden age was inevitable. The desert's environmental changes, coupled with the shifts in trade and political power, made the once vibrant cities of the Sahara unsustainable. Yet, the stories of these cities, Timbuktu, Ghadams, Oualata, and others, continue to inspire awe and wonder. These cities were not simply victims of the environment or politics. They were places of human innovation and achievement. The irrigation systems of the Garamantes, the libraries of Timbuktu, and the architectural feats of Ghadams are reminders of humanity's ability to adapt and thrive in the harshest of environments. Despite the fact that many of these cities no longer exist in the way they once did, their cultural legacies live on, influencing the people and cultures of the Sahara and beyond. The Sahara may have swallowed these cities, but it could never erase the legacy they left behind. As we continue to uncover their stories, we gain not only a deeper understanding of the Sahara's past, but also a greater appreciation for the remarkable civilizations that once called it home. The Sahara was once a cradle of trade, culture, and learning, and while the sands have buried much of its history, its influence continues to shape the world today. As the winds howl softly through the desert, you begin to feel the pulse of the Sahara, a place that has witnessed the rise and fall of some of the most remarkable civilizations in history. The story of the Sahara is not just about its deserts and dunes. It's about the people who once called it home. Those who lived here were not simply survivors, but innovators and pioneers, creating complex societies that thrived in the harshest conditions, from ancient water systems to advanced architecture. The lost cities of the Sahara were testaments to human resilience and ingenuity. Take Oualata, an ancient city located in the southwestern Sahara, in present-day Mauritania. Oualata was one of the leading trading cities of the Saharan trade routes and a cultural center of the Berber people, known for its distinctive mud brick architecture and winding, narrow streets. Oualata stood as a thriving urban center that connected the sub-Saharan world to North Africa. Its rich markets, filled with precious goods like gold, salt, and ivory, made it one of the wealthiest cities in the region. Historians still argue whether Ualata was more than just a trading city. Was it an intellectual center, much like Timbuktu? While not as well known as Timbuktu in terms of intellectual achievements, Ualata was home to a thriving cultural scene. With Islamic scholars and traders coming together to exchange knowledge, the city's library collections contained numerous Arabic manuscripts, many of which covered topics like mathematics, science, and religion. Ualata's influence in spreading Islamic culture across the desert remains significant to this day, as it was one of the primary cultural gateways for the Islamic world into sub-Saharan Africa. Yet, Ualata's fate was much like that of many other desert cities. As climate change and desertification took their toll, water became increasingly scarce, and trade routes shifted away from the Sahara. As new powers rose in the region, the economic decline and eventual abandonment of cities like Ualata became inevitable. Despite this, the remnants of Ualata's architectural beauty and its cultural significance remain as testaments to its former greatness. Today, its ruins stand as a reminder of the thriving civilization that once prospered in the heart of the Sahara. Similarly, Ghadam's, a historic oasis city in modern-day Libya, offers a glimpse into the ingenious ways desert dwellers adapted to the harsh environment. Known as the Pearl of the Desert, Ghadam's was strategically located on a trade route connecting the Mediterranean to the sub-Saharan region. The city's distinctive architecture, which includes underground cooling systems and domed roofs, allowed its inhabitants to survive the blistering heat of the desert. The narrow, winding streets, designed to create shade and protect from the harsh desert winds, showcase the city's remarkable adaptation to its environment. Ghadam's, like many Saharan cities, was a thriving center of trade and culture, playing a key role in the trans-Saharan trade networks. The city's markets were bustling with goods and luxuries from Africa, the Mediterranean, and the Middle East. Salt, gold, and ivory, which flowed through the desert like the lifeblood of the Sahara, were traded in exchange for textiles, ceramics, and luxury items from the north. For centuries, Ghadam's was a crossroads of cultures, where people from different regions, religions, and traditions came together to exchange not just goods, but ideas. It was a true cultural melting pot. However, Ghadam's, like other Saharan cities, eventually faced decline. The rise of maritime trade routes, the spread of Islam, and the growing dominance of the Ottoman Empire contributed to the city's fading prominence. The decline of trans-Saharan trade meant that cities like Ghadam's, once thriving hubs of commerce and culture, were slowly abandoned. Still, despite the city's fall from glory, Ghadam's remains a symbol of resilience, standing as one of the most well-preserved examples of traditional Saharan architecture. As you think about these cities, Ualata, Ghadam's, and others, you begin to understand just how much the Saharan civilizations achieved in the face of adversity. Their ability to adapt to the harsh desert environment, their mastery of water management, and their innovation in architecture were all key to their success. These civilizations didn't simply survive in the desert. They thrived and flourished, creating societies that were sophisticated, culturally rich, and commercially successful. Despite the challenges they faced, the people of the Sahara left behind a rich cultural legacy, a legacy that continues to influence the world today. The Saharan trade routes, the cultural exchanges, and the innovations that emerged from these cities had a profound impact on the development of North Africa, Europe, and sub-Saharan Africa. Today, historians and archaeologists continue to uncover new insights into the lives of those who once lived in these desert cities, providing us with a deeper understanding of the complexity and richness of the Sahara's past. What remains clear, however, is that the golden ages of the Sahara were defined by resilience and adaptation. The civilizations of the Sahara were able to harness the desert's resources, build advanced cities, and create thriving economies in an environment that many would deem impossible. The lost cities of the Sahara may have faded into the desert sands, but their legacy endures, a testament to the power of human innovation and the enduring spirit of civilization. The quiet desert landscape stretches before you, the shifting dunes and the cold night air filled with the weight of centuries. There's a haunting beauty in the Sahara, where the past lingers just below the surface, waiting to be discovered. The ancient cities, once bustling with life and energy, now stand silent beneath the sands, their secrets hidden from the world. Yet, as we continue this journey, we realize that the Sahara is not merely a backdrop for human history. It is the cradle of human ingenuity, where trade, culture, and innovation flourished in one of the harshest environments on Earth. One of the most striking aspects of the Sahara's ancient civilizations was their remarkable ability to adapt to the desert's challenges. Unlike many ancient societies that relied on fertile river valleys or coastal areas, the people of the Sahara faced extreme aridity, temperatures, and scarcity. Yet, they managed to create sophisticated urban centers, thriving economies, and complex social systems. The lost cities of the Sahara stand as monuments to their resilience, creativity, and resourcefulness. The Garamantes, for example, were a desert civilization that flourished in the heart of the Sahara. Far from the lush river valleys of Egypt or Mesopotamia, they constructed complex underground irrigation systems called qanats, which allowed them to tap into the desert's underground water sources. These systems helped the Garamantes cultivate crops, sustain their population, and develop a thriving society in the midst of the vast, arid desert. Their engineering ingenuity made it possible for them to thrive in a region that seemed impossible to inhabit. Historians still argue whether the Garamantes developed these qanat systems independently or whether they were inspired by Persian or Roman technologies. Some suggest that the Garamantes learned from their neighbors, while others believe that their methods were unique to the region, a testament to their adaptation to the desert environment. Regardless of the origins of their technology, the Garamantes' ability to survive and thrive in the Sahara was a remarkable achievement. Similarly, the city of Autogast, located in modern-day Algeria, was another key center of trade and culture in the Sahara. Autogast was one of the largest and most influential cities in the ancient Sahara, serving as a hub for the trans-Saharan trade routes. It was at the crossroads of West African gold and Mediterranean salt, and its markets were filled with goods from all over the ancient world. The city was a place where different cultures met, traded, and exchanged ideas, contributing to the rich cultural tapestry of the Sahara. Historians still debate the rise and fall of Autogast. Some argue that the city's decline was linked to the changing trade dynamics of the Sahara. As new trade routes emerged and the city's strategic position became less relevant, others point to the gradual environmental changes, such as desertification and declining water sources, which made it increasingly difficult for cities like Autogast to sustain their populations. Regardless of the cause, Autogast's legacy endures, and its importance in the broader context of Sahara history cannot be overstated. In fact, many of the lost cities of the Sahara were centers of cultural exchange, where the people of the desert interacted with civilizations far beyond their borders. The Berbers, who were indigenous to the Sahara, played a central role in these interactions. As nomadic traders, they were instrumental in connecting sub-Saharan Africa with the Mediterranean world. The Berber tribes acted as intermediaries in the trans-Saharan trade, facilitating the movement of goods, ideas, and technologies between different cultures. They were the lifeblood of the Sahara's economy, guiding caravans across the desert and facilitating the exchange of luxury goods like gold, salt, and textiles. The influence of the Berbers on Saharan civilization cannot be overstated. Their ability to navigate the desert, their knowledge of water systems, and their skills in trade allowed them to survive and thrive in a world that many would consider inhospitable. They built cities, established trade routes, and created a cultural network that spanned across North Africa, from the Mediterranean coast to the heart of the Sahara. The Berber contribution to Saharan culture and history is a testament to the adaptability of the human spirit. However, like many other great civilizations, the Saharan empires eventually faced decline. As the Islamic caliphates expanded across North Africa, the political landscape of the Sahara shifted. The spread of Islam brought with it new political systems, religious practices, and trade routes. While the spread of Islam contributed to the cultural richness of the Sahara, it also marked the end of the old order, as new empires rose and the ancient cities of the desert were either absorbed into larger political systems or left to fade into obscurity. Historians continue to debate the impact of the Islamic expansion on Saharan civilizations. Some argue that the arrival of Islam disrupted the established political and trade networks, leading to the decline of older desert empires. Others believe that the spread of Islam helped foster a new era of cultural exchange and trade in the Sahara. Whatever the case, the Islamic influence on the Sahara played a significant role in shaping the region's cultural and political development. As you sit under the vast desert sky, you can't help but feel the weight of history. The lost cities of the Sahara, with their advanced technologies, rich cultures, and thriving economies, remind us that the desert was once a place of incredible human achievement. Today, the Sahara may seem like a barren wasteland, but beneath the surface, it holds the remnants of civilizations that conquered the harshest environment on Earth. These lost cities are not just ruins, they are testaments to the power of human resilience, adaptation, and innovation. As we uncover the secrets of the Sahara's forgotten cities, we are reminded that the past is not truly gone. It lingers, hidden in the sands, waiting to be rediscovered. The Sahara may have taken these cities, but it could never erase the legacy of those who lived, thrived, and created civilizations in the heart of the desert. As you continue your journey through the Sahara, there's a subtle realization that the desert isn't simply a barren landscape. It's a living museum, holding the remnants of ancient civilizations that once thrived. The vast dunes and the endless expanse might seem empty, but beneath the sand lies a treasure trove of history, revealing the stories of societies that were resilient, innovative, and sophisticated beyond imagination. These civilizations, despite being scattered across a desolate desert, had a profound impact on the cultural, political, and economic development of the surrounding regions. Let's look deeper at one of the Sahara's most enigmatic and mysterious cities, Tadrart Akakus, located in present-day Libya. Known for its stunning rock art and prehistoric paintings, Tadrart Akakus gives us a glimpse into a time when the Sahara was a lush and vibrant landscape. The paintings, some of which are thousands of years old, depict scenes of animals, human figures, and ritualistic practices, all evidence of a rich and thriving culture that once lived in the Sahara. Historians still argue whether these rock paintings represent early religious practices, daily life, or rituals. Some scholars suggest that the art offers a glimpse into the spiritual life of the people, while others argue that the paintings were created to document the natural world and the animals that once roamed the desert. Regardless of the interpretations, these rock art masterpieces provide an extraordinary connection to a time long past. They serve as a reminder that the Sahara wasn't always a desert, but once was a place of bustling wildlife and thriving human populations. Beyond the art, Tadrart Akakus is home to ancient settlements and remnants of early Saharan architecture. The people of the region adapted to the desert environment by creating structures that were as innovative as the desert itself. These rock shelters and stone dwellings were designed to keep out the heat and protect the inhabitants from the brutal sun. The architecture and artistry found in Tadrart Akakus provide valuable insights into the technological and cultural advances of the ancient Saharan people, showcasing their intimate knowledge of the environment and their ability to survive in a world that many would find impossible to inhabit. While Tadrart Akakus remains one of the Sahara's most fascinating archaeological sites, it's just one piece of the larger puzzle of Saharan civilization. Cities like Gadameh, Oalata, and Odogast were part of a broader network of trade, culture, and technology that spanned across the Sahara, connecting Africa, the Mediterranean, and the Middle East. These cities were centers of exchange, where goods, ideas, and cultures converged, shaping the development of the ancient world. However, just like the civilization in Tadrart Akakus, these cities gradually began to fade. Climate change, shifting trade routes, and political upheaval all contributed to the downfall of many once thriving Saharan cities. The spread of Islam and the rise of new empires further disrupted the established order, causing the older Saharan kingdoms to lose their influence. Historians continue to debate whether these cities fell due to environmental degradation, political shifts, or a combination of both. One thing is certain. However, these civilizations, while now lost beneath the sands, had a profound influence on the cultures and societies that followed. Take Gadams, for example, located on the edge of the Sahara. Gadams was a city that once flourished as a major trade hub connecting sub-Saharan Africa with the Mediterranean world. Known as the Pearl of the Desert, the city was famous for its stunning architecture, narrow streets, whitewashed buildings, and the intricate design of its rooftop gardens. Like many other Saharan cities, Gadams thrived thanks to its strategic location along the trade routes. The city served as a meeting point for merchants and traders, and it became a vital part of the Saharan trade network, exchanging goods like salt, gold, and spices. Gadam's decline, like that of many other Saharan cities, was caused by a combination of factors: the rise of Islamic powers, the spread of colonialism, and the shifting nature of global trade all contributed to the city's gradual decline. As trade routes changed and the importance of Saharan cities waned, Gadams was left behind. While the city still stands today, its once great commercial influence has diminished, and the ruins of its ancient architecture now serve as a silent reminder of a golden age long past. Similarly, Oalata, a historic city located in the southern Sahara, was once a thriving center of Islamic scholarship and trade. Oalata was a key point on the trans-Saharan trade routes, and its intellectual contributions were significant, with scholars producing valuable manuscripts on subjects like mathematics, astronomy, and religion. The city's libraries were once filled with priceless texts, making it a beacon of learning in the desert. Yet, as with other Saharan cities, Oalata's decline was inevitable. Climate change and the shifting of trade routes gradually led to the abandonment of the city, leaving it in ruins. The story of Oalata, Gadams, and other Saharan cities is not just one of decline. It's also a story of adaptation and survival. These cities were built to withstand the harsh conditions of the desert, and the ingenuity of their people is evident in the architecture, engineering, and water management systems they created. The oasis cities of the Sahara, with their underground water channels, their cooling systems, and their unique designs, represent the remarkable ability of human civilizations to thrive in the most difficult of circumstances. The Sahara, despite its vast emptiness, is rich with history. The cities of the Sahara may be lost to time, but their legacy lives on. Their stories remind us that human resilience and innovation are the true markers of civilization, qualities that allow societies to adapt, flourish, and leave a lasting imprint on the world. As the desert night deepens, a sense of calm falls over the vast, empty landscape. But there's still a lingering feeling that the Sahara holds within it much more than what meets the eye. The ancient cities that once dotted this unforgiving land may have been swallowed by the sands. But their stories are far from forgotten. The Sahara, with all its silence and isolation, was once a vibrant crossroads of human civilization, where cultures, ideas, and goods flowed freely across vast distances, uniting disparate worlds through the trans-Saharan trade. At the heart of these forgotten cities were the incredible trade routes that connected the Sahara to the Mediterranean, sub-Saharan Africa, and even beyond to the far reaches of the Middle East. The Saharan trade network was not just about goods. It was about the exchange of knowledge, the movement of people, and the cross-pollination of cultures. The cities of the Sahara were hubs of cultural exchange, where merchants, scholars, and pilgrims met, traded, and shared stories. It was a place where the ideas of the Arab world merged with the indigenous cultures of the Sahara, creating a unique blend of African, Islamic, and Berber traditions that shaped the entire region. Take Timbuktu, for instance. While most people associate the city with trade in gold and salt, its intellectual legacy is just as important. The city became a center of Islamic scholarship, with its universities, libraries, and madrasas producing some of the finest scholars in the world. The manuscripts from Timbuktu, many of which have survived to this day, are not only valuable historical records, but also serve as a testament to the intellectual achievements of the Saharan civilizations. They reflect a culture that valued learning, science, and religion in equal measure, a culture that was as advanced in its understanding of the natural world as any other civilization of the time. Historians continue to debate whether Timbuktu's intellectual legacy was the driving force behind its wealth, or if the city's prominence was primarily due to its position on the trade routes. Some argue that the city's scholarly reputation helped attract traders and intellectuals, while others believe that its wealth in gold and salt made it an attractive destination for scholars seeking both knowledge and prosperity. What is clear is that Timbuktu was a city of intersection, where ideas from both the Islamic world and sub-Saharan Africa converged to create something truly unique. However, as with many of the Sahara's cities, Timbuktu's decline came slowly but inevitably. The rise of maritime trade routes shifted the center of commerce away from the desert, and the spread of Islam and the expansion of Islamic empires created new political and economic dynamics. Eventually, the city's once thriving trade routes were bypassed, and its intellectual and commercial importance waned. But even as the city faded from its former glory, its legacy endured, as the intellectual and cultural contributions made by its scholars continued to influence the world for centuries. Just as Timbuktu stands as a reminder of the Sahara's intellectual prowess, Gadams, Oalata, and Odegast are similarly symbols of the Sahara's trade power and cultural significance. The oasis cities of the Sahara, like Gadams, were strategically placed along the major trade routes, and their markets were rich with goods from across the African continent and beyond. The architecture of these cities, with its narrow streets, cool courtyards, and rooftop gardens, was designed not only for functionality, but also for beauty. These cities weren't just places to live. They were architectural marvels, built to withstand the extreme heat of the desert, while promoting community interaction and cultural exchange. The rise and fall of these cities also highlight the delicate balance between human ambition and environmental factors. The Garamantes of the Central Sahara, for instance, were pioneers in harnessing the desert's resources, particularly through their use of underground irrigation systems. Their ability to build a thriving society in such a harsh climate is a testament to their engineering prowess. However, just as the Garamantes found success in water management and trade, they too fell victim to the very environment they had mastered. As the desert expanded, their resources began to dwindle, and they were eventually overwhelmed by a combination of climate change and external pressures from neighboring powers. Historians still argue whether it was the desertification of the Sahara that caused the collapse of civilizations like the Garamantes, or whether it was a combination of environmental, political, and economic factors. Some believe that as the desert spread and access to water became more difficult, these ancient cities lost their ability to sustain large populations. Others suggest that political instability or the rise of Islamic powers that dominated trade routes weakened these ancient kingdoms and caused them to crumble. Whatever the cause, the legacy of these civilizations remains, reminding us that the Sahara's history is not just about sand dunes and empty space. It's about the people who once called this harsh land home. As you sit beneath the desert sky, you realize that the Sahara's golden age is a tale of both triumph and decline, a story of human adaptation, innovation, and resilience. These lost cities may no longer stand, but the ideas, technologies, and cultures they created live on. The legacy of the Sahara's forgotten cities is woven into the fabric of human history, offering valuable lessons in how we might build a future that balances human ambition with respect for the environment. While the desert may seem empty now, the Sahara's ancient cities offer a powerful reminder that the past is not truly gone. The stories of these lost cities may have been buried beneath the sands, but their influence on the modern world remains. The desert has taken much, but it can never erase the legacy of those who lived and thrived in one of the most challenging places on Earth. As the cool breeze carries the scent of sand and history, you are reminded that the Sahara is more than just a desert. It's a repository of stories. Beneath the endless dunes lies the history of civilizations that managed to build, survive, and even thrive in a landscape that would seem inhospitable to most. These cities, while now only remnants of their former glory, stand as monuments to the resilience, adaptability, and creativity of their people. While much of the world today knows the Sahara as an expanse of dry, endless sand, it wasn't always so. The Sahara, once home to lush grasslands and abundant wildlife, hosted thriving communities that created intricate trade systems, sophisticated irrigation methods, and cultural hubs. Yet, like so many once great civilizations, these societies fell, some disappearing without a trace, while others left behind only traces of their greatness, carved into stone, etched into manuscripts, or written in the memories of those who once lived and traded here. Consider Oued el-Kefif, an ancient city hidden deep within the heart of the desert, its remnants now obscured by the sands of time, located in what is today Algeria. This once thriving city utilized underground water systems and terraced farming, which allowed it to survive in an environment where others could not. The people of Oued el-Kefif ingeniously developed these systems to capture and store water from the rare desert rains, making them self-sufficient in an otherwise arid landscape. Without access to such resources, cities like Oued el-Kefif could never have existed. But even this advanced city eventually fell victim to climate change and the pressures of a shifting world. The water systems that had sustained it gradually dried up, and with them, the city's population dwindled. The decline of Oued el-Kefif represents the broader fate of many Sahara civilizations. The transition from a relatively wet climate to the current arid conditions meant that the very systems these cities relied upon for survival became increasingly ineffective. Without reliable water sources and trade routes, the cities of the Sahara gradually lost their capacity to sustain their people. The decline of cities like Oued el-Kefif was not a sudden event, but a slow and gradual erosion of resources, combined with the shifting tides of political change and external pressures. Meanwhile, Ghadams, a city on the edge of the desert, tells a different but no less poignant story. Known as the Pearl of the Desert, Ghadams flourished due to its location at the crossroads of the trans-Saharan trade routes. With its complex, climate-adaptive architecture. Gadam's became a cultural and commercial center, drawing traders from all corners of Africa and the Mediterranean. The city's narrow streets and high walls provided protection from the sun and the fierce desert winds, while also fostering a sense of community and connectedness. For centuries, it served as a thriving metropolis, exchanging salt, gold, ivory, and textiles in the markets. Its oasis-based economy, supported by its water management systems, allowed it to survive even the most extreme heat and droughts. But as with many Saharan cities, Gadam's decline began when trade routes shifted, and the rise of new empires disrupted the ancient trade networks. The gradual desertification of the region further strained Gadam's, reducing its ability to sustain its population. The city began to lose its status as a major trading hub, and eventually, many of its inhabitants left in search of more fertile lands or new opportunities elsewhere. Gadam's, while still inhabited, is but a shadow of its former selves, its bustling markets now reduced to quiet alleyways. What makes the story of Gadam's particularly poignant is its architectural legacy. The city's design, specifically its cooling systems, and its adaptation to the desert environment, remains a marvel of ancient engineering. The rooftop gardens and underground passages that were once used to store goods are still intact, serving as a reminder of how civilizations in the Sahara adapted to their environment. Despite the city's decline, Gadam's continues to stand as a symbol of human ingenuity and the drive to survive in one of the most challenging places on Earth. The fate of Oued el-Kefif and Gadam's is not unique. Many cities along the trans-Saharan trade routes faced similar fates. Boom, bust, and eventual abandonment. Some, like Timbuktu, maintained their importance for centuries, but ultimately, all of them succumbed to the shifting forces of nature, trade, and politics. The cities of the Sahara were once thriving metropolises, full of culture, innovation, and life. But as the desert grew, many of them were gradually reclaimed by the sand. Yet, despite their eventual decline, these civilizations left an indelible mark on history. The trade routes, cultural exchanges, and technological innovations they fostered shaped the development of Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. The ancient water management systems, architectural feats, and scholarship that arose in these desert cities continue to influence us today. They are a testament to human ingenuity, showing that even in the harshest conditions, civilizations can emerge, thrive, and leave behind a legacy that endures across time. As you sit quietly in the desert, you can almost feel the presence of those who once lived here. The caravans, the scholars, the traders, and the builders who carved out a life in the Sahara are not gone. They have simply been buried beneath the sands, their stories waiting to be rediscovered. The lost cities of the Sahara may have been forgotten by time, but their impact continues to resonate through the modern world, reminding us of our shared heritage and our ability to create even in the most unforgiving places. As the stars twinkle in the vast expanse above, the silence of the Sahara is a gentle reminder of the once vibrant life that flourished here. The ruins that dot the desert landscape tell a story of remarkable human achievement and resilience, illustrating how these ancient civilizations adapted to the unforgiving climate, created thriving trade systems, and left behind legacies that continue to shape our understanding of the past. The lost cities of the Sahara are not mere memories. They are monuments to the ingenuity and determination of those who once built great societies in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Take, for example, the city of Gadamez, often called the Pearl of the Desert. Situated at the crossroads of vital trade routes, Gadam's became a center for commerce and culture. Its unique architecture, designed to protect its inhabitants from the extreme heat and sandstorms, is one of the city's most striking features. The narrow streets, high walls, and underground chambers were all part of a sophisticated system that allowed its people to survive the blistering sun. It wasn't just an architectural marvel, it was a thriving oasis town, where traders and merchants from all over Africa, Europe, and the Middle East came together to exchange goods and ideas. Salt, gold, and ivory flowed through the markets, while knowledge in the form of manuscripts and intellectual traditions was also passed along. However, much like the other great Saharan cities, Gadam's eventually faded. The gradual desertification of the region, coupled with shifts in the global trade networks, led to a decline in the city's importance, as maritime trade grew in significance, and new political powers rose in North Africa and Europe. The bustling trade routes that had once passed through Gadam's began to bypass the city. Despite the city's decline, its legacy remains, both in the form of preserved architecture and its cultural significance. Even today, Gadam's stands as a reminder of the innovation and resilience of the civilizations that once thrived here. The Garamantes, too, are a shining example of Saharan ingenuity. This ancient civilization, which flourished in the heart of the Sahara, built one of the most sophisticated water systems ever designed, allowing them to cultivate crops and create a thriving society in an area where water was scarce. The Qanat system, a series of underground channels that carried water from distant sources to their cities, was an engineering marvel that enabled the Garamantes to not only survive, but thrive in the desert. Their civilization was not just a fluke of survival, it was one of remarkable adaptation and creativity, despite their advances. However, the Garamantes were eventually forced to abandon their cities, their once thriving empire fading into history. Historians continue to debate the causes of the Garamantes' collapse. Some suggest that environmental changes and the gradual desertification of the Sahara led to a loss of vital resources, making it impossible for the Garamantes to continue their agricultural practices. Others argue that political shifts and external pressures from neighboring kingdoms contributed to their downfall. Regardless of the exact causes, the legacy of the Garamantes lives on in their remarkable engineering feats and their ability to adapt to one of the most difficult environments on Earth. Similarly, Timbuktu, though somewhat different in nature, stands as a beacon of intellectual and cultural achievement in the desert. Once a thriving trade city and center of Islamic learning, Timbuktu attracted scholars from across the Islamic world who came to study, write, and share knowledge. The manuscripts preserved in Timbuktu's libraries offer a glimpse into the incredible intellectual legacy of the Sahara. Timbuktu was not merely a commercial hub, it was a center of thought, where ideas about astronomy, mathematics, and philosophy were exchanged freely, bridging cultures and nations. However, like many Saharan cities, Timbuktu's decline was inevitable. The rise of the Mali Empire and the spread of Islam brought political and economic shifts to the region. The Moroccan invasion of the 16th century, combined with the shift of trade routes, led to the city's gradual decline. Despite the fall of Timbuktu, the city's impact on Saharan history cannot be overstated. Today, the manuscripts from Timbuktu continue to inspire scholars and historians, offering a window into the intellectual and cultural richness of the Sahara's golden age. The fall of these once great cities raises an important question. What can we learn from the rise and decline of the Sahara's civilizations? The Sahara is often seen as a place of emptiness, a vast desert where little can survive. But these lost cities remind us that human resilience, ingenuity, and adaptability can flourish even in the harshest of environments. The people who once lived here were innovators, who crafted complex societies and systems of trade, built incredible cities, and exchanged knowledge across vast distances. They didn't just survive, they thrived, creating vibrant cultures that left a profound impact on the world. As the wind shifts across the endless dunes, you realize that the Sahara is more than a desert. It's a land rich with history, legacy, and stories of civilizations that once flourished. and left behind a powerful reminder of humanity's ability to adapt and build in even the most unforgiving conditions. The cities of the Sahara may be buried beneath the sand, but their stories continue to resonate through the ages, shaping the world we live in today. The stillness of the Sahara night deepens, and the stars seem to hold their breath as if they, too, are aware of the weight of history buried beneath the sand. The Sahara, often seen as a place of desolation, is anything but empty. It is a vast canvas upon which the stories of ancient civilizations have been painted. Stories that, while once vibrant and full of life, are now only faint echoes carried by the wind. These ancient cities, long swallowed by time and sand, serve as stark reminders of human resilience, creativity, and the ability to adapt to even the harshest of environments. In every desert wind, there's a whisper of Timbuktu, Gadam's, Oalata, and the many other lost cities that once thrived in the heart of the Sahara. They were not just trading posts or strategic outposts. They were beacons of culture, commerce, and intellectual exchange. The Sahara, often perceived as an obstacle, was in fact a bridge connecting civilizations across Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. It was here, in these ancient cities, that cultures met, ideas were shared, and trade routes were born, shaping the destiny of the world for centuries. Take Ualata, a city situated in the southwestern corner of the Sahara, in what is now Mauritania. Ualata was not just a place of trade. It was a cultural crossroads where Berber, Arab, and West African traditions fused to create a unique and vibrant society. The city's architecture was a reflection of this cultural melting pot, with buildings constructed using local materials and designed to adapt to the harsh desert environment. The narrow streets, courtyards, and rooftop terraces were all built with careful attention to the needs of the people, cooling the air, providing shade, and offering a respite from the desert's oppressive heat. Historians still debate the city's exact role in the Saharan trade networks. Some argue that Ualata was a central hub for trade, while others suggest that its influence was more cultural than commercial. Regardless of its economic importance, Ualata's legacy as a center of learning, art, and Islamic scholarship cannot be overlooked. The manuscripts and books produced here, many of which have survived to this day, are testament to the city's role in preserving knowledge and ideas. Yet, like many other Saharan cities, Ualata's decline came with the changing trade routes, the rise of new political powers, and the shifting tides of environmental change. Today, Ualata is a city forgotten by time, its once vibrant markets now silent, and its scholars' legacy buried in the dust. Meanwhile, Gadam's, another jewel of the Sahara, offers a different yet equally poignant story. Known as the Pearl of the Desert, Gadam's was an oasis town strategically located on the edge of the Sahara. Its architectural beauty, with its narrow, winding streets, high walls, and domed roofs, was a response to the harsh desert conditions. The city was built to withstand the extreme heat, with the thick walls and labyrinthine design offering shade and protection from the scorching sun. Gadam's wasn't just a shelter from the desert. It was a bustling trade city, where merchants from North Africa, the Middle East, and Sub-Saharan Africa came together to exchange goods, ideas, and cultures. The city's location along key trade routes made it a critical hub for the movement of salt, gold, ivory, and textiles, enriching both the city and its inhabitants. However, like other Saharan cities, Gadam's fell into decline as the trade routes shifted, and the rise of new empires altered the political landscape of the region. The spread of Islam, the Ottoman expansion, and the increasing dominance of maritime trade routes took their toll on the once thriving city. As Gadam's markets grew quieter, its people sought new opportunities, and the city became a shadow of its former self. Yet, Gadam's legacy remains intact, its architecture still standing as a testament to the ingenuity of its creators. Today, Gadam's is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, its preserved old town offering a glimpse into the Sahara's past. The story of these lost cities speaks to the larger narrative of the Sahara, a story of adaptation, resilience, and change. The civilizations that once lived in the Sahara were not just survivors of the desert. They were masters of it, creating systems to thrive in a landscape that many would deem uninhabitable. Their architecture, water systems, and trade routes were as advanced as any civilization of their time. And though these cities have faded into the sand, their influence continues to reverberate through time. As the Sahara changed, so too did the societies that lived there. Desertification, climate change, and shifting trade routes altered the way these civilizations functioned. Many of the cities that once thrived along the trans-Saharan trade routes began to disappear, leaving only their ruins behind. But the legacy of these civilizations lives on. The ideas, technologies, and cultural exchanges that took place in these cities shaped the history of Africa, the Mediterranean, and beyond. The Garamantes, for example, represent one of the most remarkable examples of desert survival. Their civilization, which flourished in the heart of the Sahara, relied on innovative water systems to irrigate their crops and sustain their people. The Qanats, which they built to transport water from underground sources to their cities, were a remarkable feat of engineering that allowed them to thrive in an otherwise barren environment. While the Garamantes eventually faded into obscurity, their legacy of engineering innovation and adaptation lives on as a testament to the ingenuity of the human spirit. As you sit beneath the vast sky of the Sahara, you realize that the lost cities of the desert were not just places where people lived. They were places where civilizations connected, ideas flourished, and human creativity shaped the course of history. These cities may have been buried beneath the sand, but their stories continue to inspire and inform the world today. The Sahara, once a place of desolation, was a thriving center of trade, culture, and knowledge, a place where human civilization found a way to not only survive, but to thrive against all odds. As the cool desert breeze shifts the sand, the stories of the Sahara's ancient cities grow clearer. The forgotten cities of the desert, though silent now, were once the vibrant heart of a thriving network of trade, knowledge, and culture. These cities were connected through complex trade routes, facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures from the Mediterranean, Africa, and the Middle East. The Sahara, often considered an obstacle, was in fact a powerful connector of civilizations. In its sprawling expanse, cities arose, cities that created lasting legacies, not just in their physical structures, but in their contributions to human knowledge and innovation. Take the Garamantes, for instance, whose civilization flourished in the Fezzan region of Libya. These people were true pioneers, developing sophisticated systems to adapt to one of the world's harshest environments. The Garamantes built underground irrigation channels, known as qanats, to tap into the underground water supplies of the desert. This allowed them to cultivate crops, create gardens, and even build entire cities in a place where water was an extremely scarce resource. They harnessed the desert's resources in a way that would have been unimaginable to other civilizations of their time. Historians still debate whether the Garamantes' rise was the result of their unique engineering abilities, or whether it was their strategic location along important trade routes that helped them thrive. Some argue that the technological advancements of the Garamantes, especially their water management systems, were their key to success. Others suggest that their proximity to key trade routes, particularly those linking North Africa with sub-Saharan Africa, allowed them to prosper as an essential commercial hub. Whatever the cause, the Garamantes' legacy of survival and innovation in the Sahara is undeniable, and their impact on the region's development is still felt in the modern world. But like all civilizations, the Garamantes eventually succumbed to the forces of change. Desertification, trade route shifts, and internal conflicts led to the decline of the Garamantes. Historians continue to debate the exact causes of their downfall, with some suggesting that the changing climate made it difficult to sustain life in the desert, while others point to the political shifts that occurred in the region. Regardless of the exact reasons, their cities, once thriving, gradually became abandoned, their great water systems and trade networks left in ruins. Similarly, the city of Timbuktu represents another fascinating chapter in the Sahara's history. Timbuktu was not just a commercial hub. It was a center of learning and intellectual exchange. The city's rise to prominence occurred during the peak of the Mali Empire, when its strategic location at the crossroads of important trade routes allowed it to thrive. Salt, gold, ivory, and other luxury goods were exchanged in Timbuktu's bustling markets, and its scholars became renowned for their contributions to Islamic and African knowledge. Manuscripts detailing everything from astronomy to law were preserved and studied, and Timbuktu became known as a beacon of knowledge in Africa and the wider Islamic world. However, Timbuktu's decline mirrored that of many Saharan cities. The Moroccan invasion in the 16th century, coupled with shifting trade routes and the spread of colonialism, gradually weakened the city's position. While Timbuktu remained a center of intellectual life for centuries, its economic dominance and cultural influence were significantly diminished. The decline was not only a result of external forces, but also due to the gradual drying up of trade routes, which once brought wealth and knowledge to the city. Even so, Timbuktu's legacy remains as a symbol of the power of knowledge and intellectual exchange in the Sahara. Despite the decline of many Saharan cities, the legacy of trade, culture, and intellectual pursuit is still present today. The Sahara, once a center of vibrant societies, was a crossroads where civilizations met and exchanged ideas, goods, and technologies. These ancient trade routes were responsible for not only the exchange of material wealth, but also the flow of knowledge, science, and religion. Islam, in particular, spread across the Sahara, connecting West Africa with the wider Islamic world and influencing the intellectual and cultural development of the region. Historians continue to study the fascinating connection between the trans-Saharan trade routes and the spread of Islamic knowledge. The influence of Arabic on the languages of West Africa, the preservation of manuscripts in Timbuktu, and the exchange of scientific and mathematical knowledge all point to the profound impact of these ancient trade routes on the development of the Sahara and beyond. The Trans-Saharan Trade Network, once the lifeblood of the desert civilizations, played an instrumental role in connecting cultures and sharing knowledge across continents. Yet, the stories of these cities also serve as a reminder of the impermanence of civilization. The climate, the rise and fall of empires, and the shifting patterns of trade all played significant roles in the decline of these once great cities. The rise of maritime trade, the spread of Islam, and the changing geopolitical landscape made the once thriving desert cities less relevant in the context of a changing world. Despite the decline of these civilizations, their legacy remains as a reminder of the ingenuity and resilience of the human spirit. The ancient cities of the Sahara may be lost to time, but the stories they tell, through the ruins, the manuscripts, and the artifacts they left behind, continue to shape our understanding of the past. These civilizations were not just survivors of the desert. They were creators, innovators, and traders who built cities, knowledge, and networks that connected the world in ways that continue to influence us today. As the night deepens and the desert air cools, you realize that the Sahara is more than just a barren landscape. It is a testament to the enduring legacy of the civilizations that once called it home. The cities may be gone, but the stories they left behind will continue to inspire and guide us for generations to come. The The silent expanse of the Sahara stretches endlessly before you, yet beneath its barren surface lies a history of incredible achievement and adaptation. These ancient cities, now little more than echoes in the wind, tell the tale of resilience, innovation, and the enduring human spirit. They were not simply abandoned by time, but reshaped by the forces of nature, politics, and commerce. The Sahara, a vast and unforgiving desert, was once a thriving center of trade, culture, and intellectual exchange, and the remnants of its past civilizations continue to offer valuable lessons for the future. Consider the Garamantes, who built an empire in the heart of the Sahara. The Garamantes were masters of water management, using their ingenious qanat systems, underground channels, to bring water to their cities, enabling them to thrive in an environment that many would consider uninhabitable. Their water systems were among the most advanced in the ancient world, allowing them to create an agricultural society in the desert. The Garamantes' ability to adapt to their harsh environment is a testament to their ingenuity and their understanding of the Saharan landscape. Despite their remarkable achievements, the Garamantes eventually disappeared. The desertification of the region, coupled with the political and economic changes brought about by the rise of new empires, led to the collapse of their civilization. Yet, the Garamantes' water management systems and their trade networks still offer valuable lessons in sustainability and adaptation. Their ability to survive and thrive in one of the world's most challenging environments stands as a testament to the human spirit and the ingenuity that can flourish even in the harshest of conditions. Similarly, the story of Timbuktu offers an insight into the power of intellectual exchange in the ancient Sahara. Located at the crossroads of trade routes, Timbuktu became a beacon of Islamic scholarship and intellectual achievement. The city's libraries, filled with manuscripts covering a wide range of subjects from astronomy to mathematics, became a hub for scholars and traders alike. Timbuktu's intellectual legacy is a reminder of the importance of knowledge in shaping the future. The city's manuscripts, many of which have survived centuries, continue to inspire scholars around the world, highlighting the value of preserving knowledge for future generations. However, as with many of the Sahara's great cities, Timbuktu's decline came with the shifting tides of history, the spread of Islam, the changing trade routes, and the eventual Moroccan invasion in the 16th century weakened Timbuktu's position as a center of commerce and learning. The rise of new trade routes and the changing political landscape led to the city's gradual decline. But even as Timbuktu faded, its legacy remained intact, reminding us of the importance of learning, trade, and cultural exchange in shaping the course of history. As the Sahara's cities disappeared, new forces began to shape the region. The spread of Islam transformed the political landscape, creating new alliances, trade routes, and cultural connections. The Islamic influence that swept across the Sahara was a key factor in the integration of the Sahara into the broader world of the Islamic empires. Timbuktu, Oulata, and other Saharan cities played a crucial role in the spread of Islam throughout West Africa, with scholars and traders acting as conduits for both religious and intellectual exchange. Historians still debate the extent of Islam's influence on the decline of the Sahara's ancient cities. Some argue that the spread of Islam brought about the downfall of older trade systems and political structures, while others suggest that the cultural integration of Islam helped foster the development of new networks of trade and intellectual exchange. Regardless of the cause, what is clear is that Islam became a defining force in the history of the Sahara, shaping its cultural and intellectual legacy. Despite the decline of many Saharan cities, the legacy of the Sahara's civilizations continues to resonate. The intellectual contributions, trade networks, and cultural exchanges that once defined the Sahara have had a lasting impact on the development of North Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, and the wider world. The manuscripts from Timbuktu, the trade systems of the Garamantes, and the architectural achievements of cities like Ghadames all serve as reminders of the Sahara's once great status as a center of human achievement and cultural exchange. Even today, the ancient trade routes and intellectual legacies of the Sahara continue to shape the world. Timbuktu's libraries have inspired generations of scholars, and the Garamantes water systems are studied as examples of early engineering ingenuity. The Sahara's lost cities, while now buried under centuries of sand, continue to inspire those who seek to understand the remarkable civilizations that once thrived here. The Sahara's legacy is a reminder that human societies are never truly isolated. Even in the most remote and harsh environments, trade, cultural exchange, and intellectual achievement can flourish. The Sahara's cities, once connected by vast trade routes, were part of a global network that spanned continents. They were not just trading hubs, they were centers of learning, cultural exchange, and human innovation. The fact that these civilizations were able to create sophisticated societies in such a challenging environment speaks to the resilience and resourcefulness of the people who lived here. As you sit quietly in the desert night, you realize that the Sahara is more than just a vast, empty landscape. It is a place of history, culture, and legacy. The lost cities of the Sahara may be gone, but their impact on the world continues to live on. The stories of these cities, their trade networks, intellectual contributions, and technological innovations serve as reminders of humanity's ability to adapt, survive, and thrive, even in the harshest of environments. As the moonlight reflects off the endless sands, the feeling of awe deepens. The Sahara's history is not just about cities that have vanished beneath the desert's relentless expansion. It is also about the enduring legacies left behind by the people who once lived in these now forgotten metropolises. These lost cities were not simply remnants of a bygone era. They were living, breathing centers of innovation, cultural exchange, and trade, where ideas and goods traveled across vast distances, shaping civilizations far beyond the desert's borders. The ancient city of Oualata, located in present-day Mauritania, offers a powerful glimpse into the life of a thriving Saharan city. Known for its unique architecture and rich Islamic heritage, Oualata was a vital cultural and commercial center in its prime. The city's mud brick buildings, intricate geometric designs, and narrow streets all speak to the ingenuity of its inhabitants, who adapted to the harsh desert environment. Oualata's layout was not just functional. It was a reflection of the people's deep understanding of how to build in a place where survival depended on both resourcefulness and ingenuity. Oualata, like many Saharan cities, was also a hub of learning. It was home to a thriving scholarly community that produced important manuscripts on subjects ranging from Islamic law to mathematics. These scholars and traders exchanged ideas with those from the broader Islamic world, creating a cross-cultural exchange that allowed Oualata to remain an important intellectual center for centuries. The city became a crossroads of knowledge, where African, Arab, and Berber traditions mixed, creating a rich cultural fabric that transcended borders and extended beyond the Sahara. Yet, like all Saharan cities, Oualata eventually began to fade. Environmental pressures, the decline of trans-Saharan trade routes, and political shifts led to the slow abandonment of the city. The spread of Islam, the changing nature of trade, and the rise of new powers further weakened Oualata's importance. Historians continue to debate whether its decline was caused by environmental factors, such as desertification, or whether it was the result of political and economic changes in the region. Regardless of the cause, the city's legacy continues to be felt today. Its architecture, manuscripts, and cultural heritage serve as lasting reminders of the Sahara's once flourishing cities and their incredible contributions to global history. Similarly, the city of Ghadames in modern-day Libya also holds an important place in the history of the Sahara. Often referred to as the Pearl of the Desert, Ghadam's was a thriving oasis town and one of the most important trade centers in the ancient Sahara. The city's unique architecture, characterized by narrow alleyways, high walls, and domed roofs, was designed to keep the heat out and provide protection from the desert's harsh elements. Ghadam's was not just a place to survive, it was a place to flourish, where the blending of Berber, Arab, and African cultures created a rich and dynamic society. Ghadam's was also a vital trade hub. The city's strategic location on the trans-Saharan trade routes made it a center for commerce and exchange, where goods like gold, salt, and ivory were traded with merchants from North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and the Mediterranean. The city's markets were vibrant and bustling, with traders bringing goods from across the Sahara and beyond. The wealth generated by this trade allowed Ghadam's to thrive, becoming a cultural center where intellectual and religious exchange also played a significant role in shaping the city's identity. However, like many Saharan cities, Ghadam's eventually saw its decline. The rise of maritime trade routes, the spread of Islam, and the shift of political power all contributed to the city's gradual fall from prominence. As the trans-Saharan trade routes shifted and new powers took control of the region, Ghadam's began to lose its strategic importance. Despite this, the city's legacy of trade and cultural exchange remains. Today, Ghadam's stands as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a symbol of the incredible human achievement that once took place in the desert. As you reflect on these ancient cities, Oulata, Ghadam's, Timbuktu, and others, you realize that the story of the Sahara is not one of failure or abandonment, but one of adaptation, resilience, and innovation. The civilizations that once flourished in the Sahara created some of the most advanced architectural, engineering, and intellectual systems of the ancient world. They developed trade networks that spanned continents, exchanged ideas across cultures, and left behind a legacy that continues to influence us today. The decline of these cities was inevitable, shaped by forces both internal and external. The changing climate, the shifting of trade routes, and the rise of new powers all contributed to the eventual fall of the Sahara's great cities. Yet, despite their decline, the legacies of these civilizations endure. The water systems of the Garamantes, the manuscripts of Timbuktu, and the architectural marvels of Ghadam's are a testament to the creativity and ingenuity of those who once called the desert home. As you sit in the silence of the Sahara, you realize that the desert, though seemingly empty, is full of stories. Stories of human achievement, adaptation, and the incredible ability of civilizations to flourish in the most unlikely of places. The Sahara may have claimed these cities, but it could never erase their legacy. The stories of these lost cities continue to inspire us today, reminding us that even in the harshest environments, human innovation can thrive, and the spirit of civilization can endure. The desert stretches out in all directions, endless and silent. But beneath the silence, you can almost hear the stories of the civilizations that once stood proud across the Saharan landscape. The Sahara, now a vast sea of shifting sand, was once home to flourishing cities, thriving trade routes, and advanced cultures that adapted to one of the harshest environments on Earth. These lost cities, once the heart of trade, culture, and intellectual exchange, have been claimed by the desert, yet their legacies remain, preserved in the ruins and remnants that tell the tale of their remarkable rise and fall. One such city, Tadrart Akakus, in present-day Libya, offers us a window into a time when the Sahara was not a barren desert, but a land teeming with life. Known for its stunning rock art and prehistoric paintings, Tadrart Akakus showcases the deep connection its people had with the land and the animals that once roamed the Sahara. These paintings depict a landscape rich in wildlife, where giraffes, crocodiles, and antelope once thrived. The art found here provides a stark contrast to the modern-day Sahara, where these animals are no longer found, and the environment has become one of arid desolation. Historians and archaeologists continue to study the rock art of Tadrart Akakus to understand the culture and life of the people who created it. Some argue that the artwork serves as a record of daily life, depicting hunting, rituals, and the natural world around them. Others believe it holds spiritual significance, perhaps representing religious beliefs or rites of passage. Regardless of the interpretation, Tadrart Akakus is a testament to human expression, offering insight into a culture that thrived when the Sahara was a lush and vibrant landscape. Though the people who created these works have long since vanished, their art endures, a lasting symbol of their creativity and connection to the world around them. While Tadrart Akakus offers us a glimpse into the prehistoric Sahara, cities like Gadam's, Oalata, and Odogast represent the golden age of Saharan civilization. These cities, though now in ruins, were once hubs of commerce, cultural exchange, and intellectual life. They were places where trade brought goods, ideas, and people from distant lands, and where Islamic knowledge and Berber traditions intertwined to create a unique and vibrant culture. Consider Oalata, located in the heart of the Sahara. The city was a center of Islamic scholarship and trade, and it played an important role in the exchange of knowledge between the Islamic world and sub-Saharan Africa. Manuscripts, many of which were written in Arabic, offered insights into science, medicine, and mathematics, all preserved through the scholarly community of Ualata. The city was also a vital stop for traders moving between the Mediterranean and sub-Saharan Africa, carrying goods like salt, gold, and spices to distant markets. But Ualata, like many of the great cities of the Sahara, saw its decline due to changing trade routes, climate shifts, and the rise of new powers. As maritime trade routes became more significant, bypassing the Sahara, cities like Ualata began to lose their importance. Oalata's scholars and merchants were drawn to new centers of commerce and culture, and the once thriving city became quiet and abandoned. Today, Oalata is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a reminder of the Sahara's intellectual and cultural past. Though much of its former vibrancy has been lost to time, the decline of Oalata reflects a broader trend throughout the Sahara. As the climate changed and the desert expanded, cities that had once been oases of culture and commerce began to shrink. The rise of new empires, like the Mali Empire, and the spread of Islam across North Africa and sub-Saharan Africa shifted political and economic power away from the Sahara's once thriving trade routes. The spread of European colonialism in the 19th century further disrupted the Sahara's ancient trade systems and contributed to the decline of the cities that had once connected distant cultures and peoples. Despite these challenges, the Sahara's legacy is not one of failure, but of resilience and adaptation. The civilizations that once inhabited the desert left behind remarkable achievements in architecture, water management, art, and intellectual pursuit. The Garamantes, for example, developed advanced irrigation systems, while Gadams built structures that provided protection from the harsh desert sun. These cities were places of innovation, where human ingenuity triumphed over the elements, creating societies that could not just survive, but thrive in a desert environment. Even in their decline, the lost cities of the Sahara continue to offer valuable lessons. The ruins of Timbuktu, Gadams, and Ualata serve as reminders of the importance of adaptability and creativity in human history. They show us that even in the face of climatic adversity, trade disruptions, and political changes, human societies can flourish if they are able to innovate and adapt. These cities also remind us that the legacy of civilization is not solely based on its physical monuments, but in the knowledge, ideas, and values that endure long after the people who created them have vanished. As you sit under the sprawling sky of the Sahara, you realize that the desert, with all its desolation, is not simply an empty landscape. It is a place of history, culture, and human achievement. The cities of the Sahara may no longer be bustling centers of trade and learning, but their legacies continue to shape the world today. The stories of these lost cities, of their trade, innovation, and intellectual pursuits are testaments to the resilience and ingenuity of the human spirit. The Sahara, though silent now, is far from empty. It is a living museum, and as we uncover its secrets, we are reminded of the profound impact these ancient civilizations had on the world. Their triumphs and failures offer valuable lessons in sustainability, innovation, and the adaptability of human beings in the face of adversity. The desert's stillness grows deeper, and as the cool night winds blow across the sands, you can almost hear the voices of those who once lived in the Sahara's bustling cities. The lost cities, now faded beneath centuries of sand, were once places of vibrancy, trade, and culture. While their physical presence may have disappeared, the stories of their rise and fall continue to resonate in the desert's silence. These ancient cities were not just about the exchange of goods or the survival of their people. They were centers of human achievement, where innovation, ideas, and knowledge were shared across cultures and continents. As you reflect on the grand history of these cities, Timbuktu, Gadams, Oalata, Garamantes, and so many others, you begin to see how they were interconnected, part of a larger network that spanned from sub-Saharan Africa to the Mediterranean, connecting people from different cultures, religions, and languages. The Sahara, which today seems like an inhospitable and empty landscape, once acted as a bridge, not a barrier, between Africa and the wider world. It was through the Sahara's trade routes that ideas, goods, and technologies flowed across vast distances, linking civilizations that might never have met otherwise. The legacy of the Sahara's lost cities is profound, and continues to inspire those who study history and archaeology. The intellectual achievements of Timbuktu's scholars, the engineering marvels of the Garamantes, and the cultural exchange that took place in cities like Ualata and Gadames all reflect humanity's ability to adapt to and innovate in one of the harshest environments on Earth. The cities of the Sahara remind us that even in the most isolated and remote places, human civilization can thrive when people work together to create trade networks, build sustainable societies, and share knowledge across boundaries. The decline of these cities, often attributed to changing climates, shifting trade routes, and political upheavals, offers valuable lessons about the fragility of civilizations. The desertification of the Sahara, which caused once fertile areas to become arid and inhospitable, is a reminder of the forces of nature that shape human history. Just as the cities of the Sahara rose to greatness, so too did they fall, overwhelmed by the changing conditions of their environment. The rise of new empires, shifts in trade routes, and the growing dominance of maritime trade over desert routes led to the gradual decline of many of these ancient cities. Their marketplaces silenced, and their once thriving centers of learning reduced to rubble. Historians continued to debate whether the downfall of these civilizations was inevitable, given the environmental and political changes they faced. Some suggest that the rise of Islam and the spread of the Ottoman Empire brought new systems of trade and governance that overshadowed the older Saharan kingdoms. Others argue that the growing desertification of the region was the primary cause of their decline, making it increasingly difficult for these civilizations to sustain themselves. Whatever the cause, what remains clear is that these ancient cities, though gone, left behind a lasting legacy that shaped the world in ways that continue to influence us today. The legacy of these lost cities also serves as a reminder of the enduring power of human creativity and adaptation. Despite the Sahara's harsh climate, its civilizations were able to create advanced systems for water management, build trading empires, and develop intellectual traditions that contributed to the world's collective knowledge. The manuscripts of Timbuktu, which contain a wealth of information on a variety of subjects, and the engineering feats of the Garamantes, whose qanats allowed them to thrive in the desert, stand as testaments to what human beings are capable of achieving when they work in harmony with their environment. In the modern world, as we face climate change, political instability, and economic shifts, the story of the Sahara's lost cities offers us valuable lessons. These civilizations, which managed to adapt to an environment that would seem impossible to inhabit, remind us of the importance of innovation, sustainability, and the ability to adapt in the face of adversity. As the desert itself shows, nothing is permanent. The forces of nature and the shifting tides of history can cause civilizations to rise and fall. But the legacy they leave behind, whether in the form of art, knowledge, or trade networks, endures. The Sahara is not just a barren wasteland. It is a repository of history, a place where the great civilizations of the past rose, thrived, and left a lasting mark on the world. The manuscripts from Timbuktu, the water systems of the Garamantes, and the architectural marvels of Gadams are all reminders that the Sahara's ancient cities were not only survivors, they were creators of culture, knowledge, and trade that reached across continents. Even as the desert slowly reclaims their ruins, their influence lives on as the Sahara's sands continue to shift. Its story is far from over. The cities may be lost to time, but the echoes of their greatness remain, reminding us that human ingenuity is capable of thriving even in the harshest environments. The Sahara's ancient cities may be buried beneath the sand, but their legacy will never be forgotten. Their stories will continue to inspire future generations to innovate, adapt, and create a future that, like the Sahara's great civilizations, is resilient, creative, and full of possibility. Now, as the desert silence wraps around you like a blanket, you realize the full depth of the Sahara's legacy. The lost cities of the desert are not simply ruins, they are powerful symbols of human achievement, innovation, and the enduring spirit of survival. These cities, once filled with bustling trade and intellectual activity, may no longer stand, but their legacy lives on, waiting to be rediscovered and appreciated by those who continue to seek the forgotten wonders of the world. Thank you for the journey through the Sahara's fascinating history, sweet dreams, and may the whispers of the lost cities guide you through the night.